Yeah.
Welcome everyone to the Lower Moreland Township Board of Commissioners State and Advertised Meeting, monthly meeting today, January 14th, 2025. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Down a few commissioners, Commissioner Canale is online and Solicitor Rice is online, both on Zoom, to let everyone know. Commissioner Mueller is tied up with work this evening. So we welcome everyone. We hope everyone had a great holiday and a happy and healthy new year. We welcome public input and what you have to say. We appreciate you all being here tonight. When addressing the board, there's a podium at the front of the room. Could you please raise your hand? We'll call you, come on up and state your name and address for the record. Clearly for our assistant Leah. Thank you. And please address the board regarding each agenda item that is in front of us at that time. If it's regarding another matter that isn't covered on our agenda, the non-agenda portion will be, and you should come up and address the board. So please be respectful and kind, and we appreciate you being here. One other announcement, the board will meet in executive session with our solicitor following the meeting to discuss a legal and a real estate matter. John will be online with us. So I'd like to start the meeting off with a quote from Martin Luther King. I know the day of service is on the 20th, and Steve and I have been planning our event with the community and the kids. Everyone can be great because anyone can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Now, I want to thank each and everyone for any kind of volunteer service that you provide, our fire company, our board of commissioners. That day is designated to service, but I want to thank all of you for serving every day. So the first committee is my committee, Chair of Internal Affairs. First item is review and consider minutes of December 10th, 2024. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, let's see. Commissioner Canale? Okay. With the public, does the public have any comment regarding our minutes? There are none. I'll make a motion to approve the December 10th, 2024 minutes.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the December 10th, 2024 minutes. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. I see you, Joe.
Joe moved his mouth, but
yes, he did.
Unmute.
No opposed. Thank you, commissioners. The motion's passed. Next item is review and consider the January 2025 bill list. Board, any comments? Questions? Thank you. Any public comment at this time? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve the January 2025 bill list. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Oh, second, who's
I'll second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the January 2025 bill list. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Let's see, Commissioner Canale. No opposed. Thank you, commissioners. Motion's passed. Next is review and consider the Huntingdon Valley Library Board appointment. Commissioner Canale is one of two township appointees to the Huntingdon Valley Library Board of Trustees. His appointment expires this month, so it is recommended to consider the attached resolution reappointing to Commissioner Canale to a new 3-year term. Any questions, commissioners?
Nope. No.
I know the library loves having Commissioner Canale. Any comments from the public? Leah on Zoom? No? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 25-01, reappointing Commissioner Joseph Canale to the Huntingdon Valley Library Board of Trustees for a term commencing January 3rd, 2025, and ending January 2nd, 2028.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 25-01, reappointing Commissioner Canali as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed. The motion's passed. Congratulations, Commissioner Canali. Next, review and consider HR mediator appointment. The term of HR mediator Mindy Torchman is set to expire on January 14th, 2025. Manager Hoffman periodically speaks with Mindy throughout the year, and she's confirmed her interest to continue serving in this capacity. Just for the public information and our board, we have not had any claims since we started this. Are there any questions from our board? Any questions from the public comment? Any public comment, Leah, online, in the room? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 25-02, reappointing Mindy Torchman as the HR mediator for a one-year term commencing January 15th, 2025, and ending January 5th, 2026.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 25-02, reappointing Mindy Torchman as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No opposed. The motion's passed. Okay, next is the administration report. Manager Hoffman.
So just a few items to call out this evening. First is that now we are into 2025. We are going to really get going on the planning for the fire rescue station. So I had a meeting with Ed Murray from Stiefel Public Finance on January 8th to talk through the schedule of how between now and the end of June, we need to perform a series of tasks to be able to issue the first set of bonds that will help us cover the soft costs for bringing on our consultants, the property acquisitions, all of the permitting and fun things that go into that. So we have that schedule aligned. The major item for the board there will be what's called a bond parameters ordinance. So we'll review that with our bond counsel, Tim Anderson. We'll also go through Solicitor Rice. But essentially, it's an ordinance that the first time you see it, it will be to authorize advertising, the second time for adoption, but it will set parameters for the bonds that ultimately we will authorize Ed Murray to sell on our behalf. Just so that when they go to market, they're operating within kind of specified interest rates, and we will be anytime that we've done that ordinance in the past, the market provides better than what is otherwise authorized in that, but it gives some flexibility just based off of the timing that we will need to do that. When all of that is complete, we would have our first set of bond proceeds in the township's account in July. So at that point, we can begin incurring all the costs that would be associated with that project. We're also continuing to work on the various property acquisitions. Since the last meeting when the board authorized the purchase of 2671 Huntingdon Pike, we have gone to settlement. We now hold that property as Moreland Township. So that's a great one to have checked off of the list. And we are continuing to work with A&C for the property at the corner of Huntingdon Pike and Buck. I'll have a greater update for the board at a later time on that property. And then just another infrastructure topic of interest is the Fetters Mill Bridge. I think it was last month, Steve had advised that he had attended the pre-construction meeting. The county Office of Assets and Infrastructure had awarded a bid for construction. We have since found out that PICO had submitted for an extension for their underground work that has to go for the stream crossing, and the PUC granted that extension. I sent that to the county to say, like, hey, are you aware of this? And if so, are these projects compatible? They were calling a staff meeting to make that determination because they were not sure. So hopefully this is still on track for 2025 construction, but we will see what the impact of that extension for PICO, what the implication of that is. So those are the two items I wanted to call out for this evening, unless there are any other questions.
When do you think we might hear back about the bridge?
I do not want to set expectations from that office.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the board for Manager Hoffman? Joe, do you have any questions? Okay.
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll accept Manager Hoffman's administration report as submitted. Next is our tax collector, our elected tax collector, Jane Sale. Is she up there? I don't see her. Jane, are you on with us tonight? Rick was asking, is it JS in the corner or not?
I don't think, usually it's her full name.
Yeah, it usually is. Okay. What are we doing next? It's
So the report is
really just a
in your
review.
books for,
Right,
essentially, the collection was very strong, in 2024. We exceeded the 96%, which is what we put in our budget. So that is helpful. And then she is preparing, the outstanding taxes, and what is, forget that the interim bills. I signed off on those numbers for the township today. She'll have them prepared for the county and for the school district as well. And that's how anything that was still owed from 2024 carries into 2025. But we're in a very strong position, from a collection perspective. So starting next month, her report will carry over to be the 2025 collections. She told me today that bills, I think, will be going out about February 7th. So that next report will really have no information on it because the month ending January 31st, will not have any billing related to it.
okay. And we all have her report in our tablets, so I will accept tax collector sales report as submitted to us. Next item on my agenda is my liaison report. And I am liaison to the Moreland Township School District, the Moreland Township School District DEI Committee, and Moreland Township Community Events. So I attended the December 17th and the January 7th meeting on Zoom. And I sent our board pretty extensive summary with attachments from the meeting that I thought were very relevant and information that I feel that you should all have. So Jamie Lynch from Dewey advised that it will probably be his last meeting at the district and to close out the high school project. It's exciting to see this from start to finish. He advised the intersectional projects on Red Line Road were complete, the mast arms, the pedestrian crossing, paving, and issues related to PICO, and PennDOT still has to do their work regarding identifying a final punch list, and they'll need to close that PennDOT permit out and provide as-bills. So the school district should be able to make their final payment also to the general contractor, who is, that has been such a tough project for them on Red Line Road. So next, all their contractors are done their punch list items, and the only thing is their general contractor has a few things to finish, some warranty work and some elevator rolling gate repairs, and some mill work. So once that's complete, the school is in good shape. They can close out the whole project. So the school district also needs to close out an NPDES permit, which
Always fun.
yeah, so they'll be working on that. And I just wanted to say that he thanked the school board. He also thanked the township, saying that the high school was built for $270 a square foot. Today's prices, it will be about $400 a square foot. And if they were building it today, which would have been another $35 to $40 million more due to the skyrocketing prices. So I'd like to thank our entire staff and our board of commissioners and our Manager Hoffman, who worked so wonderfully and collaboratively with the school district in an expedient manner to get the school open for the kids in the community. I'd also like to make mention, I don't want to forget anybody, the commissioners who were on the board at the time of the project when it was starting and in motion. So Dr. David Serkin, Rob DeMartinez, Jill Blumhart, Christopher Odner. He had some parts where we had to vote on some things when he was in office, and also We can never forget the late Freddie Gonzalez and the late Clay McQueen. So it's so rewarding to see the project when we're driving by and to know that that's going to be there for the kids. I mean, Joe, your kids and Sean and Joe Canales' kids will be really enjoying that new high school. So they also.
Can I ask a question
Sure.
about the school, the exit of the parking lot? There's only one lane to get out of there. It's a nightmare and it's dangerous. Like, who designed that? There's one lane in, one lane out. There's 5,000 cars trying to leave at the same time. There's no right turning lane. It's like one car's turning left. It's a hour wait to get out of there.
That's a PennDOT HOP.
Is that who did it?
So they had their engineering team put together the plan that PennDOT reviewed for, based off of all of the traffic data and what was required to access Red Line.
We should look at adding an extra lane there and cut out the baby little tree that doesn't have leaves on it yet. Make another.
Are you talking about the Valley Center Park Drive or the main high school?
The Valley Center Park Drive, but that's where all the school people park.
Right, the teachers and buses use that lower level lot.
The lower level lot by the turf, so you have all the turf people traffic plus the playground traffic plus the school traffic. And then, you know how events are, they all leave at once, but cars are driving up and it's dangerous. Poor design. That's all I have.
Is that, I mean,
It's something to look at, there's
so
30
what could we
feet.
do in our power?
We are an owner of the property. We have a shared use agreement with the district, but every improvement and the usage of that is solely a school district decision. So I would suggest that any of the conversation around that is less a we as the township, and more feedback to the school district to have their engineers confirm that it's working or not working as designed.
Thank you, Commissioner Pace, for that feedback. Commissioner Canale, do you have any comments?
No,
Thanks, Joe. Okay, two other items and quick was their ICS facilities assessment and planning next step. Their initial capital planning it was a big presentation with a lot of numbers presented for present and future facilities needed costs. So the plan, they talked about a new plan, which was revised to include this warm, safe, and dry, which they're going to address the imminent needs with a total budget of $3 million. So if anybody wants to see that, their timeline is outlined starting in January 2025 with the completion in 2026. And they also spoke about their stadium, field, and track. They're going to talk about moving forward. Their voting meeting is until next week with the concept design and site analysis. So I think that's important for all of us to know too. ICS is the professional service with TNM Associates and GKO Architects as some subcontractors. So they're going to perform a site analysis and conceptual design for stadium options. They've been talking about that for a long time. And also, finally, the school board started talking about their budget at the December and January meeting. So their timeline is from January to June. So it will be great if everybody, I downloaded everything and sent it to our whole board. But if anyone from the public's interested, look online. Everything's on www.lmtsd.org. I see Jane up there. So Jane, I'll come back to you when I'm finished really quick. So under Moreland Township School District Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, I've been invited back to join that committee at the district. So that's going to be under the leadership now of Dr. Scott Cole. He's Director of Teaching, Learning, and Community Engagement. So together as a group, we'll continue working together and fostering a more equitable and inclusive school environment for all. So there's 4 meetings. The first one starting January 28th, 2025. There's a snow date in there. I hope we don't have to have that snow date. And there's 3 other meetings, so it's 4 total. Under Moreland Township community events, all our winter and spring events have been scheduled. And we'll thank Steve Werner and Leah. We've been on Zooms just for the events to make sure everything goes smoothly. Our first event is going to take place on Monday, January 20th. It's a Martin Luther King Day of Service. If any of the commissioners, anyone from the public would like to come, come on out. We will be announcing the location. We are hoping that the location will be the playground at Ridgeway Park. I was out there with Steve today on this blustering day, and we're hoping that'll be ready. And we work with the high school kids and Mr. Miles, we can ship that playground and pick up litter in that park. And we hope the timing's right. If not, Steve has plan B, another location, but that's what we're planning on. And we have another Zoom meeting scheduled with Mr. Miles this week. So I'm just going to quickly go through this in April because it's the first meeting of the year. So everybody has this, is aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it. April is our Township Egg Hunt. It's sponsored by the Lower Moreland Township. It's run by the Huntingdon Valley Library, and that'll take place at Lower Moreland Park. We have that scheduled for Saturday, April 5th, with a rain date, Sunday, April 6th. Our Earth Day event is moving along. That'll be Thursday, April 10th, 4:30 to 6:30 for the community. Steve and Lee and I are still working on some details. With regard to the high school students, we always ask Mr. Miles if any of the kids would like to get involved in the tree planting. So we usually have that after school, before 4:30. But this year, Mr. Miles threw out a suggestion, maybe it would be great to have it during a school day. So we're going to try to coordinate and work with them on that. So just to prepare for Earth Day, and Steve Werner and I just received, because we received it in January from Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, is for our tree orders for our trees, our native trees. So the order is due Tuesday, February 11th. And all the trees are native species. And Steve and I are going to check the location and the environment with Chris Mendel at Pennypack Restoration Trust. He's our environmental consultant. Is that what he's called?
Yep.
To make sure that, we're picking the right tree species for the right area. So next to final is our second grade township visit and tour. We have that scheduled. That's for April 24th and April 25th. So Steve, Lee, and I have another Zoom meeting scheduled with the teacher at Pine Road to talk about, that tour. And it's of the Township Lower Moreland Police Department. They go through the Historic District, Public Works, and whatnot. So that's about it. And that's what we have planned for 2025. Does commissioners have any questions regarding this? No?
Sounds good.
Any public comment?
Denise, June's on now, so you know.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Jane's on.
Jane's on. Yes, I see her. Okay, so this concludes my community events, and I will circle back to, it was under tax collector's report. Jane Sale, our elected tax collector. Hello, Jane.
Thank you very much. Sorry for the technical difficulties. The year ended on a good note for us. We collected 99.16% of the face amount of taxes, which totaled $6,332,989. We've leaned to the county for the Montgomery County Tax Claim Bureau an amount of $53,605, which is less than what we leaned last year. So that's a good thing for the township. They get more money prior to the end of the year. The new tax bills will be prepared after I turn everything into the county. I will get the new duplicate. The new tax bills will be prepared, and they will be in the mail the first week of February. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Does the board have any questions for tax collector Sale?
No.
Any public comment? Okay, thanks so much, Jane.
Thank
I'll
you.
accept your report as submitted. Thank you very much. Okay, the next committee is Community Development Committee. It's chaired by Commissioner Mueller, who was unable to be here tonight, so I'm his liaison. So the first item on his agenda is review sketch plan, and it's Zeon Real Estate LLC. It's 8 County Line Road. It's number 2303.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bryce McGuigan from Begley Carlin here on behalf of Zeon Real Estate LLC. Thank you so much for having us tonight. I have with me Otar Kosashvili, who is the owner of Zeon Real Estate. I also have Mikhail Vyazkin of Land Development and Gedalia Vinukorov of GB Designs. There are professionals on the project who have assisted and directly designed the plans you see before you tonight. So we're here today with respect to a sketch plan for a minor subdivision related to this project, but more specifically, we're here today for a somewhat unusual request. We're seeking the township's input and hopefully approval of a concept that's a part of this project, a little unusual, which would relate to a property swap with the township related to a small portion bordering an adjacent township-owned basin. But by way of background, the property at issue is about 1.1 acres. It's located at the corner, essentially near the corner of Ramage Run and County Line Road, part of the RSD4 district, and is currently improved with essentially 2 existing dwellings and an in-ground pool with some related paving. To basically highlight the subdivision just briefly, it's rather straightforward. What we're going to do is you see the plan up here on the screen. We're going to take this property, which is 1 parcel. You see the township basin here to the right. We're going to subdivide so that's 3 separate homes are going to be constructed on here. This one to the left is existing. There's another existing structure right around where my laser is right now. That's going to be removed. Then we're going to add 2 other homes. These homes will front Ramage Run, so they'll be basically in conformance with the rest of the community. And the interesting thing about this is it's going to result in 3 completely dimensionally compliant lots. There's no setback issues. There's no coverage issues. So there's no zoning concerns related to this. And actually, even with the addition of essentially 1 dwelling unit, we're going to be removing impervious surface that is greater than what we're installing. So in total, there will be less of an impervious surface percentage and coverage on the lots compared to what's there now. And what we think is they're going to be a little bit more in conformance with the community. Like I mentioned, the somewhat unique portion of the project, and candidly, the reason that we're here for an otherwise relatively compliant subdivision is because when you look at this property, you have this odd little spur here that goes along through to County Line Road. And this is the separator between us and Philadelphia. So the properties will front Ramage Run, but you have this unusual little spur here. And we don't want to create an issue where there's going to be a property owner here in Lower Moreland Township who's going to have to essentially maintain this strip that otherwise borders Philly and a township stormwater basin. So what we're proposing is to essentially give the township this little strip right here that's that I'm tracing. And instead, we're going to ask that the township swap that with this small little triangle here that borders our lot 3. And essentially what this will allow us to do is to square off lot 3. So that's a more uniform property. And this will allow the township to take this little piece of property and add it onto the basin. And what we've discussed, our professionals have discussed with Mr. Woodrow's office, is potentially working with the township to ensure that there are some additional stormwater upgrades to that basin, not only on our property, but to the basin itself. So at the end of the day, to just make this, I guess, put a neat little bow on this, subdivision is zoning compliant. It will result in a more typical development in the Ramage Run area. It will also better serve the local area from a functional standpoint in that there will be less impervious surface on the property. And again, it will result in a better stormwater management system, not only on our property, but better stormwater management with respect to the basin as well. Like I said, I have my client here along with our team. We're more than happy to answer any questions that the commissioners may have. However, what we're really asking for today is any input that the commissioners may have. And if this seems like something that is workable from the township's perspective, then we know that we will have to work with Solicitor Rice's office with respect to an agreement of sale to effectuate this property swap. And we also understand that we still have to go through the whole subdivision process in Lower Moreland Township, which will result in us coming before this this board eventually with respect to the actual meat and potatoes with respect to this project. But for now, we just are looking for any input regarding the proposed property swap. I know I just monologued for a little bit. I appreciate your patience with that. And obviously, if the commissioners have any questions, we're more than happy to see if we can jump on those for you.
I think we're going to go through all the review. I know we're going to review Tim's Tim, are you gonna review have
Be
you
happy
next,
to.
and then we'll ask questions? Is
Perfect,
that okay?
That sounds great.
Thank you.
Yeah, again, I think Denise, we are flying at 10,000 feet tonight. We have been talking to the applicant about this concept of this swap of real estate with our basin and with the third lot in the proposed subdivision for a while now. Steve Werner and Matt and I walked this basin last summer. This basin is actually on our pollution reduction plan that we've submitted to the DEP as part of our stormwater obligations to them. Planning to retrofit this basin in a very similar fashion to what we have just recently completed up at Longview Lane. And so our ability to have a little extra elbow room, again, reducing some impervious cover on the property, it kind of makes good sense to us from a practical perspective. And I think what we are seeking direction from the board tonight, if you think this concept has merit, if you don't have significant issues with, again, the concept of swapping this real estate, I think we can then proceed as a staff to work through the details of how that transaction would occur. The subdivision, as Bryce talked about, we'll be back with you and all this review letter stuff in the future. But I think tonight's question is, again, just that, this kind of transfer of real estate. We gain some land for our basin, lot 3 gets a little more rectangular. Does that make sense to you all?
I'll just ask, and keeping it at a high level. So question number 1, the triangle that we would lose as a part of the basin, does that put the basin at risk in any way, shape?
It does not. As a matter of fact, that part of our real estate is well above and outside of any basin function. If we are going to make improvements to the basin, it probably would occur in that flagpole strip off of County Line Road. And that's why it seems to make some sense to give up that triangle, which is very high. Sean, that's way up in the air. Basin is way down low.
Gotcha.
And so that portion, that triangular shape really has no impact on the basin.
So that's like a ridge.
It is.
Okay. And then what is on that current rectangular strip that the township would?
Nothing, lawn, there's some
Okay.
trees, you know, it's,
The driveway actually.
the driveway is the pole out on
I'm sorry, you said triangle.
the triangle, yeah. So the triangle is just kind of the side or rear yard of that existing home that we demolished in conjunction with the plan.
But the rectangle that goes out, I think,
Rectangle.
yeah, that one is, you said is just,
It's the driveway.
That's the driveway.
This property has 2 driveways,
Okay.
one that accesses Rabbit's Run and the other that accesses down on County Line. I'm not sure where this configuration of property ever came from. I suspect that it was always a driveway off of County Line Road, 75 years ago.
Sure.
And then there was another drive cut to Rabbit's Run when Rabbit's Run was built. But this is a very much a legacy property that probably deserves to be cleaned up at this point if it's all feasible.
so I take it that would, as becoming part of the basin, would probably get tore up, thus leading us to more or less impervious surface.
Correct. That would be the plan. That driveway that serves the back of the existing house would come out.
And if I may briefly, so that is the plan, but also what we would do is we would wait until the close of when we were finished construction to do that. Because at an earlier stage, probably about a year ago, before I got involved in the case, the team came back before I believe Planning Commission, and there were a decent amount of local neighbors who showed up to express some concern about the project. And one of the chief concerns was they were concerned with construction of vehicles and equipment coming down Ramage Run. So what we're planning to do now, provided that the subdivision eventually gets approved in some capacity, is to use this lane for construction. So we're going to, all of our construction equipment and vehicles will come through there. Nothing will come through Ramage Run. We'll construct, obviously, build out property. And then at the very last stage, that's when, we will remove that impervious. We'll do the exchange of property, and then the township will make whatever improvements are necessary. So we use that to help ensure that there's no disruption to the local neighbors, and then the property swap will happen at the tail end.
Let the folks who are here and online know, the land area conveyed to, this is from your report, to Lower Moreland is 4,400 square feet. And we're giving them 1,300 square feet. So we are actually gaining quite a bit more land than we're giving.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's so far in the future you can't talk, but would that sort of order of operations have any impact on projects we're gonna do this year with respect to this basin?
I do not believe so, Sean.
Okay.
We're obviously, we have to get into the project, we haven't
Right,
really designed
I'm
it
okay.
yet, but yeah, no, I would suspect that anything that we do to this basin would be, you know, mindful of that driveway and the need to take it out in the future.
Yeah.
And it was not necessarily on this year's agenda, even so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know it very much is.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, I
I'm
thought that
sorry.
Yes, our next round of PRP projects is everything that is township owned, being one of them. So to your point, Commissioner Bland, when Tim goes to do the design for that, we'll need to be mindful of what does the end result of that rectangular area need to be? And if it is something that is kind of in conflict with what we're constructing, I think we can probably phase it in a way that what they restore is ultimately what's beneficial for both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're also ready to move forward expediently with this project and with the subdivision, the formal subdivision submission as well. You know, it's just obviously until we hear from the township with respect to whether this is something that can work at a high level or not, it's difficult to revise plans, you know, assuming that we're not in a position to do that.
Sure.
So presuming that the township is interested in moving forward, obviously after tonight, we will work very closely with Mr. Rice's office to get the details squared away. We'll revise the plans to incorporate this, and we'll be getting a submission to the township in short order.
Okay, just before the commissioners, before all of us give you, some feedback, Solicitor Rice, do you have anything to add or say before?
Well, just, we've been talking about this for over a year, so this is not new to Tim and Chris and the staff, and it makes a lot of sense to clean up that basin. The land that's being swapped, I didn't hear the math, but Tim's letter from October says that there's 4,401 square feet coming to the township and 1,312 square feet going out from the township to the developer. So, the net land is an increase to the basin. It should let that basin, and we've talked about, we need to define what the improvements are, but these old basins all need some type of improvement to increase their infiltration. So it makes a lot of sense. I don't see any obstacles to this. We just need to, put it into an agreement of sale, and then once the applicant here is satisfied, then they can file their formal subdivision plan. There's no decision tonight on this. I guess at this point, unless the applicant, I think if the consensus of the board is to move forward with it, then there'll be an agreement of sale prepared that'll come back to the board for an approval at a later date.
There is no vote for or against this, as Solicitor Rice said, but is to give you feedback and, Tim's recommendation to, as Solicitor Rice is, land swap's a good idea. Move forward with that. So does anyone want to go to Joe? Joe, you want to say anything while you're on Zoom?
Commissioner, after Commissioner Kennelly, we do have Planner Klutnikow here as well.
Oh,
I don't know, he's on Zoom. I don't know that he'll have anything substantive to add, just wanted to give him a chance.
No, I'm good with the plan as it stands.
okay. Thank you, Commissioner Kennelly. Okay. Frank, are you up there?
I am. Yep.
I didn't see you with the plan over the screen.
That's okay. I think the discussion on this plan, I have nothing to add to it. There's really no planning or major zoning issues related with the land swap. So I think it's something that would benefit the township.
Thank you. Agreed. Commissioner Houston?
I have no problem with the concept.
Okay. Commissioners? Plan?
Yeah, no, I have no issue with this. This seems like a win for everybody.
Commissioner Pate?
I'm on board with it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
feedback. We truly appreciate it. And I just want to reiterate that we could move forward with subdivision even without this, but it just seems like something that really is a win-win for everybody. So that's why we're before you, and we appreciate your time and effort and the time and effort of your professionals in assisting us with this. And we look forward to working with the township for the balance of the project. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the Community Development Committee is review and consider preliminary final plan. It's 759 and 761 Fetters Mill, number 2408.
Good evening. I'm Nicholas Rose from Protract Engineering. This is, not dare I say, it's just sort of a cleanup item. Right now, there are two properties there, one in Vernouthen Borough, one in Lower Moreland Township. There's a piece of land that the pool house and some other facilities actually go over. And this, I think, even is mentioned in the review letters. It would sort of be a cleanup of that so that all the facilities on the one lot would stay on that lot. The Lower Moreland Township lot would then be free of those items and just contain the existing dwelling and driveway that's on that lot. Everything stays compliant. The lots are considerably larger than is necessary, both in Vernouthen Borough and in the township. So I've looked at the review letters from both Penny's office and Frank's office. We don't have any issue, and it's really just noting what we're doing, and they even note that it seems to make sense to clean this up. So I can give you more detail, but it's basically just taking a small sliver of land and taking it from one property to the next.
The one property is encroaching on the other property, which is the pool.
Correct.
And, you know, pool house and.
Yeah, right now the municipal line and the property line goes right through the pool house. So this would just clean that up. And we've been in front of the planning commission, not even there, and they did not have any issue with it.
Yes.
I would agree. Yeah, again, I guess, again, this is more of those legacy issues from, I don't know when, but obviously ownership was similar and pools were built and pool houses were built over an existing property line. And it does make sense to kind of bring those improvements onto the lot that are, I guess, are intended to use and own those facilities. So again, a lot line shift. No new building lots being created, no new development or construction being proposed, just cleaning up what is probably an oversight in the construction of that pool back in the day.
Sure, because it makes it legal, because right now, basically the one property owner is really enjoying parts of the property on the other property owner's property.
You know, this happens a lot with family-owned properties, you know, where, oh, it's Aunt Millie lives next door, she won't mind if I build a pool here. And, you know, as you go forward in time, it's a situation that really should be cleaned up and addressed.
Okay. Do we have a letter, repeat letter, Frank?
Yeah, my my only recommendation is that Lot C and Lot A, or Track C and Track A, actually be combined together. Try to avoid creation of a non-conforming lot. This is a pretty simple plan, so I have nothing else to add on the plan itself.
And I should say we do intend to combine those two together.
Okay.
I should also note this has already been in front of the borough of Vernouthen.
Yes.
Both municipalities have to approve it.
And they approved it, yes.
Subject to see your determination.
Okay. And that's what that note is on the plan with Frank.
Yes,
said,
both
so.
municipalities have to approve.
Okay, great. Let me see if we have anything else. Okay, Solicitor Rice, do you want to weigh in on any of this?
No, this is really simple. You have a simple resolution, preliminary final, you know, subject to Tim's letter, review letter, and he talks about the legal descriptions, but there's really nothing else to this. There's no improvements in Lower Moreland, so, you know, just subject to any board questions and public comment, it's ready to go.
Does the board have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, I'm in favor of moving forward with this. Commissioner Canali, you're up there on Zoom. Do you have
I'm
any
good.
comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay, so we have a resolution in our tablets, commissioners. It's resolution 25-1 2025-03. It's a resolution, the Board of Commissioners of Moreland Township, Montgomery County, approving the final minor subdivision plan for 759 Fetters Mill Road
Second.
with two conditions. Compliance with Woodrow and Associates review letter dated November 25th, 2024, copy of which is attached here too and incorporated herein as Exhibit A. And number two, compliance with all other applicable township ordinances, county, state, and federal rules, regulations, ordinances, and statutes.
Public comment.
Yeah, I just realized I didn't go to public comment. Is there any public comment before we move on this, as we discussed? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2503 for the final minor subdivision plan for 759 Fetters Mill Road. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Second.
Look, he had already seconded it, so.
Yeah. I thought,
Sean seconded a motion that had not been made. We appreciate his enthusiasm.
okay, wait, do I have to go back?
No.
All those,
The record will reflect Commissioner Pace's second.
okay,
Aye.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Commissioner Canali? Did he aye?
Yep,
Aye.
there it
Yep.
is.
Okay.
All right, great, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is review waiver of land development 2587 Huntingdon Pike. Is there a representative for the applicant?
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Alex Goldberg. I'm counsel with Vlad Baseman, the owner of 2587 Huntington Pike.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to speak louder so
Sure.
the microphone. is
Sure.
able-
My name is Alex Goldberg. I'm here with Vlad Baseman, the owner by way of his corporate entity, 2587 Huntington Pike LLC of the property there at the corner of Huntington Pike and Red Line Road. It's very close out of those windows right there. We are sort of early on in the process of bringing this property, all the way up to help Vlad, ultimately wants to use it. He has a commercial use on the ground floor and 2 residential units above. We are seeking a waiver to allow the use of a medical office in the basement of the structure. We believe we should have some sort of a vested right to do that based on what we believe is a 30-year history or more of an office type use in the basement there. A salon, a title office, I believe. That was obviously, that was Vlad's understanding when he purchased the property. We've since learned that there was ultimately no use and occupancy permit obtained for those uses way back then, and I guess that property owner just kind of put some uses in there. To my knowledge, there were never any violations during the course of that gentleman's ownership that we know of. Ultimately, that's sort of the land development waiver that we're seeking. We know that there are building permits that need to be obtained, as well as potential zoning relief regarding parking on the property. My understanding is we're required to provide 11 parking spaces, including an ADA compliant parking space. We are currently at the benefit of an interpretation of the prior zoning officer, is my understanding from my client, that 2 parking spaces, which are in a interior accessory garage detached from the building structure, counted as a part of our required parking spaces under the previous uses of the property. That would allow us to have 11 without making any major modifications to what's there. If we do not have the benefit of that interpretation any longer, obviously we'll have to seek some zoning relief to provide those 11 parking spaces. We understand he's working with an engineer. We know there are, specific requirements regarding that ADA parking space with paving and access and such. And, we understand all of that. We're kind of early on here. I'm not sure if if this is permitted as a part of the process, but I know Vlad would love to be able to obtain a waiver tonight and begin the process of applying for building permits to outfit that basement space, with the understanding that we wouldn't be able to obtain any sort of certificate of occupancy until everything was taken care of. I don't know if that's under the board's purview tonight. We would be grateful if that was something that could happen. Vlad, anything else?
No, I think it's good, thanks.
He's a township resident, business owner, and the future tenant of that basement space is also here tonight. So if there's questions about the specific use, we can answer those as well.
We're always happy to get new business in the township, and we're glad you're improving that building and the lot. But tonight, I think the only thing that we can do is waive the land development process.
That's all we're.
That's all we can do tonight.
I thought that was the case. But,
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it never.
That's what's
stayed,
going on.
that's great,
Yes,
but-
that is.
but I'm afraid
I
this is
appreciate
all
the
we
review
can do
though.
tonight.
And I just asked you one question.
Sure.
What's the use you're thinking of?
Like a cosmetic doctor's office. Why don't you? Yeah, I'll invite this gentleman up if that's okay. You can talk about his business.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lucky here. My name is Dr. Kazi. I'm actually right now at the historic part 2361 Huntingdon Pike. And I want to relocate Vlad's building. I'd like to have a bigger sign outside where I have a very small sign right now where I'm at, so it's just moving up 4 or 5 buildings from where I'm right now. I'm a general surgeon. I work at Holy Redeemer. I see and do my surgeries there, and I only see like post-op patients maybe once a week for like 2-3 hours in the afternoon. And then I also have a small cosmetic practice there in my office right now. We do like laser hair removal or IPL, which is intense pulse light. So it's not, we're looking to make 2 exam rooms, so there'll be only 2 patients at one time that will have their, one staff member. And the building is nice that it has high ceilings for the ground floor, so I liked it, and that's why I signed the lease. The intention, that would get your approval, and I hope we can move forward. I really want to move.
Appreciate the explanation. Yes. So what is in front of us is the waiver of land development.
Okay.
But I
Understood.
appreciate the whole, and I think you outlined a lot in your letter also.
Yeah, and we know that we've got a lot of boxes to check after tonight, so. Yeah.
Sure. Solicitor Rice.
Sure. Really the only issue, as was just stated, is a waiver of land development. This is a fairly minor improvement to the building, but technically, would require a waiver of that land development process. The other issues are, some are state issues, some are township zoning issues. So, as council said, he's got some other boxes to check. If the board's inclined to grant the waiver tonight, I think and you've done this before, is you attach conditions, and those conditions are going to be, approval by State Accessibility Review Board, which appears to be required, PennDOT if it's required, and any parking requirements given the uses for handicapped and then for the uses, and then the typical permits that are required. So they're the conditions that should be attached to any waiver of land development if the board's ready to go there. I mean, this is not a classic land development type of application, so I think it warrants the board's approval of that. I think there's some bigger fish to fry for this applicant than the land development process going forward.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you, solicitor. I'm okay with moving forward with this waiver of, land development, with the conditions that Solicitor Rice stated. So Solicitor, we would do that. We could just make a motion, but first I want to hear from the rest of the board and
Yeah, a motion to
Motion
approve,
to
subject,
approve the waiver of land development.
subject to the conditions that I just outlined, and then
Absolutely.
there'll be a letter sent to the applicant with those conditions.
Okay. Does the board have any questions? For
No, I don't.
Solicitor Rice?
I just, if he's eventually gonna have a hurdle parking space issue and has to come back in front of us, what have we done in the past when they come up short of parking spots?
Yeah, so that's actually where it doesn't come back to you for parking.
Okay.
So they have several paths that they can pursue. First is to go to State Accessibility Board to seek a waiver from providing the ADA accessible spot. If they're successful with that, that changes the parameters that they're coming in with to get a zoning permit. If they just objectively need the zoning permit, that is for the two zoning officers to be able to issue. And the extra one that Solicitor Rice had mentioned, this parking lot is a bit of an awkward location. There is, I think, for many of the spaces, adequate room to be able to back out of the space while still on the private property, but you are right on the Red Lion Road right of way, potentially into the road. So just confirming with the state whether or not they have an interest in reviewing this from an HOP perspective. We just talked about access to Red Lion from the school property. This would be equally relevant. As they pursue the answers to each of those, they'll kind of start to fall into place, and then we'll have a better idea of what we can issue as a staff. In I guess the one possibility, if they need to seek relief, that would come from the zoning hearing board, not you. So we're very comfortable recommending that the board grant the waiver, because the land development process itself to occupy the building for this use is excessive, it's onerous, because everything is already there. We just need to kind of fill in the puzzle pieces of those various approvals. That can all happen after the board grants that waiver.
May I? Does the process allow him to apply and obtain building permits while all this is happening contemporaneously?
No.
Okay, so basically, all of the parking has to be sorted. And then once we kind of have the green light on the entire project, then he can apply for building permit.
Right, because we can't issue the building permit for something that isn't ultimately going to be zoning compliant. So just as another example, you look at the Village Center Shopping Center or Be Well and Everest and the other uses that are in there. They have to submit a parking plan to show that the parking for several uses that are all in one building can operate together. Because of the uses that exist in this one building today that are the apartments and Dave's Backyard Farms, any use that's going to happen in this basement is going to happen concurrent to needing to provide that other parking. So we can't issue other parts of it that would kind of give the okay to go in and start construction and kind of get to the point of occupancy if there's not a legal way under our zoning ordinance to be able to let people get into the building. So you've got a technical task before you can get to what I'd imagine is going to be a far more straightforward path to occupancy once you have the kind of zoning driving the use part of it.
But understand that our waiving the full land development plan process is a big deal. It would save you a lot of time, trouble, and money, efforts. We are trying.
No, we appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Commissioner Canali, do you have any questions or comments for solicitor or the applicant?
Hang on, I'm coming off mute. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So my primary concern is, when was the last time this was actually occupied in the basement as a business?
During the tenure of Salon Blue, which was about 12 years ago.
Blue was not there when I started here in September of 2010, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
So it's been vacant ever since that time, correct?
Since we had did phase one construction, which we got permit approvals for, we converted the building from full commercial to mixed use in 2022. So the building has been occupied since we got our use and occupancy, I think, was maybe June of 2022. But
What
prior-
about the basement? Space?
Oh, the basement, okay, yeah, the basement was during Salon Blue tenure, which was a good 12,
Yeah,
14 years
Blue
ago.
occupied the main level and in addition to the basement, it wasn't like there was an independent user.
Yeah, there was a built-in stair shaft and a staircase and that connects the basement to the first floor.
Is that staircase still there?
The staircase is not there, but the stair shaft is still there. We had to close it up for fire, you know, with our permits, we had to fire seal the basement and all the walls leading from the basement on back to the first floor.
You know, are there two exits in and out of that basement?
There used to be, but we were required to block off the stair shaft for fire, for whatever they call 1 hour, 2 hour rated, whatever that rule was to protect. If anything happened in the basement that couldn't lead to the first floor, second floor, third floor.
Because
But there
the
used to
basement
be
was not
two.
part of the occupancy for Dave's Backyard Farms to occupy like first.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Dave's was just the first floor.
Dave currently just has a lease.
And that's why the basement space had to be fire rated off because that was not part of their
Correct.
occupied space.
Correct.
If they hadn't done that, then that would have been pulled in as part of the building review for occupying the first floor.
Correct. We did not submit permits for the basement at the time.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Did you hear all that, Joe?
Yeah, I got it. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Are there any other questions?
And Commissioner, maybe just confirming that our code officials have nothing more to add.
Okay,
I've
that
spoken
would-
a bit on their behalf. I think I did okay, but I just want to make sure.
Excellent.
That's the feedback I'm looking for.
Yeah. Because I do see some, a
People on Facebook.
construction
with
permit
thumbs up.
application, yes. Okay. Public comment, does anyone have any public comment regarding this matter? In the room? No one in the room, how about on Zoom? Okay. Hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the waiver of land development request for 2587 Huntingdon Pike with the attached conditions described by Solicitor Rice.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve the waiver of land development request for 2587 Huntingdon Pike as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion's passed.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is review text amendment application. This is NB Homes, Philmont Country Club. Chris, do we have anyone here or is this, we're just going to be reviewing?
Correct, this is just reviewing. the
We're just
request.
going to be reviewing what's in front of us. So,
Commissioner, I'm happy to assist with any amount of those that would be helpful.
sure. Can you do this for us?
Sure. So you have a letter from attorney Carl Wiener, who is representing NB Homes. Their final plan that was recorded and ultimately is what they are building approved 176 townhouses, and there's a few that would technically be described as single family semi-detached dwellings. And all of those that are in the single family attached townhouse category have a minimum lot width of 32 feet. And for attached housing, the practical implications that the homes are also 2 feet wide. It sounds like NB Homes in their sales process is hearing from several interested home buyers that a slightly smaller space. I think the homes are over 3,000 square feet, which is a large house if you're considering downsizing. So they've gotten feedback that a home that is not as wide, a little bit less square footage would help them get through their sales process. So they came to us and hashed out an idea that was to request being able to build and offer options for somebody to build a 28-foot wide unit compared to 32. Practically, in order to do that, since the zoning ordinance that was done required the lot width, a text amendment would be required to permit a reduced 28-foot wide lot, 28-foot wide lot. So that's what is in front of the board tonight. The project would still be 176 units. It would still be an age-restricted project, but it would just give one additional option for a potential home buyer going into that site. So if this is agreeable to the board, I guess we would ask for the board by motion to give the okay. That would then, I guess, initiate a zoning text amendment process. So Mr. Weiner would submit a draft of a text amendment for review by Solicitor Rice. Once we confirm that that worked well within the ordinance, we would then advertise that, and it would start the public review process, which requires local planning commission review, Montgomery County Planning Commission review, and then after a certain number of days under the MPC, then a hearing in front of this board to change the zoning ordinance. So that would be, I guess, what we would ask the board to consider if you are agreeable to the lot width reduction.
And we don't know how many of these 28-foot wide.
Correct. It would be the discretion of
their
the home
discretion, but it still wouldn't change the basic, exactly what's there, the groupings, everything.
And if you picture a building that has 4 dwelling units, there's going to be a side lot line for that building. That lot line is going to stay the same for all of the buildings that get built. The 3 lot lines that would define the homes in the middle could potentially move by 4 feet if anybody selected a 28-foot wide unit. Handling that could be done internally. Once the ordinance was done, when they would come in for the building permits, we would find out what had been purchased by the home buyer. We would get an as-built for that, and then at the end of the project, we would record a revised plan to show the exact breakdown of 32 versus 28-foot wide lots. That's a kind of technical administrative task that we would be able to handle. The only thing that would be in front of the board would be to do the zoning ordinance that would allow these 28 foot lots.
And I think in some document that you sent us, you said 2 of the 3 buildings meet this criteria already, where these 28-foot homes, basically, they wouldn't even have to come in to us. So they could just
the ordinance
build
also,
that.
first of all, what I described as the single family semi-detached. So that's a twin house, just 2 units. That requires a 45-foot lot width. But once you have the lot established, there's nothing that requires you to build any specific width home. So there's 2 of these twins that are in the phase 1. They can already build those at 28 feet wide. So they're advertising that they exist already because they can do that twice. They could advertise this to a greater ability if they could also build 28 feet wide as part of the single family attached buildings.
And the practical implication of that is a lot's the same size. The actual structure itself is just sort of shrunk in.
Yes, technically the lot.
It's like Harry
sits
Potter on when he's going into the secret house.
But it's not going to allow for more homes to be
correct
stacked in or the change overall configurations to try to get it really just any one of these groupings might be a little bit slimmer and thus perhaps slightly more grass or open space.
Yeah, right. It would be less building cover, correct?
Less building cover. It's better for even stormwater management when you think about it.
Incrementally.
Your
That's
department.
correct. That's
Tim.
correct.
So,
I don't really see any reason not to.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
Could potentially lead to a couple of these being a little less expensive.
Well, yeah, they'll probably start it, but they're still very expensive. Like 750,000, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
For
My body,
retirement,
to tell you the truth, but yeah.
55 and older.
Yeah.
I agree. Anything that could help accelerate sales, get the construction complete, if it's what people want, then it doesn't seem to be a negative impact.
If they come back with another kind of more aggressive request, I think there is a certain point where it would be appropriate for the board to react to those, but this is not fundamentally altering the project in any way. So we're very comfortable with that we can proceed.
Okay, I'm okay with proceeding. Ruth?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Joe? Okay.
I'm good with it.
She wants to say who's okay. Joe Canale?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
So Solicitor Rice, besides that informal feedback, would you recommend the board authorize proceeding by motion?
Yeah, I think the board should motion to authorize the preparation of the zoning amendment and to start the process.
Okay, before we do that, we're gonna stop for public comment. Mr. DeGeorge. But just please, just state your name and address for our assistant Leah.
Mark DeGeorge, 2414 Dale Road. I had a couple questions. Obviously, the price will be reduced on some of these homes. Is there a solid figure of that reduction? Number one, and number two, is it gonna affect the assessment? Is it gonna change the assessment, which is the school taxes, which will be a loss to the township? So, is that gonna happen? So,
Yeah, so they have not conveyed to us what the change in price would be. I'd imagine that offering a smaller square foot unit would have some amount of cost reduction from the high 900s that they're listed for today. From an assessment perspective, I know on the township side, this is one of the reasons why we don't build in any future assessment assumptions. I know from having talked to Mark McGuinn at the school district, he talked with the county assessment office to understand how they assess, because it's not the market value that determines that. There is a factor that is used, but the county does not consider any of like the upgrades that you may put into the home. They're setting kind of a standardized value per unit and then taking a percentage of that to determine the assessed value. So while a smaller unit could yield some amount of lesser assessment, for something that doesn't exist as assessment today, I don't know that it's going to fundamentally alter what the revenue projections would be, but it would be some factor less.
okay, yeah, I picture the school board already calculating what the initial assessment would have been for this project, and now it's going to be lower, so that's why I raised the question.
I drove through there today and there was a sign that said starting at 700, but you know, when you start with these new homes, I mean.
It used to say 900. It's
Yeah.
running at 900.
So I mean,
Wasn't
but
right.
the upgrades and whatnot,
Yeah.
I think that escalates pretty quickly.
Right.
So.
Yeah, market value and assessed value are different. It's, we won't know
That's
until
correct.
it happens.
Right, so I think it will have an effect on the
Yeah.
on the assessment and then carry over to school taxes. Thanks.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else?
He asked the question, but Chris, we know the tax assessment from the county already, correct?
That's Mr. McDade.
Yeah, 2472 Dale Road, Chuck McDade.
The assessment of what?
Of the first home that they sold. It's $288,160.
So you asked a question.
Yeah, I
and
know.
answered
I just
it?
want to see if you knew it. So
Mark McGuinn.
at the school
board.
yeah, at the school board meeting, Mr. McGuinn did mention that there are, I think, 30 homes sold. Do you know how many homes are sold over there? 12. Okay, and he drove through there and seen a certain amount of
So,
sold.
because you have to understand how these work. You don't go to settlement until your house is complete. You have a UNO. They can be under contract on more.
Yeah, right, yeah. So at that larger lot, larger home, the Montgomery County assesses at $280,160. So they're asking for a smaller size resident now. Did they give you, and I don't think Monco gave any tax assessment on a smaller home, but how is that going to affect our school district money?
I'm not going to weigh in on how we impact.
Or our township money.
The township money, I have not projected a single dollar from this development. So anything that you get will be a benefit. 176 homes is more than zero. Also, if they have a hard time selling, you will be collecting $0 far longer.
Right, yeah, the way it's potentially less.
Thank you.
Per home,
Sure.
but on the other hand, there may be less homes overall because they can't sell them if they're too large.
No, I get that.
And at our tax rate, you might be looking at the difference of $45 per house.
Right. And I'm assuming.
When it
Yeah.
boils down all
You
the way.
multiply assessment by a tax rate.
Yeah.
And that yields a tax bill.
Right.
We would not be looking at a major amount of money, but until they actually assess.
So
it,
you're
we'll
right.
be answering.
Yeah.
So you would agree that the assessment for the smaller homes would be lower than the assessment?
I do not know how the county assessment.
Right,
office is
it's a
going
hard
to
figure
assess
to
it.
do, yeah, when you figure it out.
It's about 300 square feet on the
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
300 square feet less.
Sure,
4 feet.
but the way they do, like Chris said, the way they do the assessment here, I mean, that.
You just said that number for that new house.
Yeah, 1.1 million.
I'm paying more than that.
Yeah, and they assess it
I
at
got it.
$288,160, and you know, when it goes down, but smaller houses, you're gonna lose school district taxes. You know,
But
that's
assessed value isn't part of their market value, though, just to be clear, so you guys know that.
right. Right.
So it's at like a 4.16. Am I correct on that, John, or something from Onco?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, the part that we don't know on top of that is what is the starting value that they're using, because they are not multiplying that by the sale price.
And you don't know whether they're going to build them all small. This is
Right.
just an option. This is not, they're changing every future one to 28 feet. It's just an option. And people tend to build the biggest house they can afford, especially in this type of a community. I think there's 3,900 square feet townhomes in there. So they're pretty significant. So it's too simple to say the taxes are going to be less, because you really don't know until somebody actually adds on whatever they're going to add on and then builds them. And they're not all going to go in at the lesser width. It's just an option that they went. And I think that because of the number of homes, 170 some, it makes some sense to, have this project built out quicker instead of having it sit around for lack of buyers. You don't want a building construction site there for 4 years.
Yeah,
You wanna
there's no guarantee that every single home gets built at the current measure. And so if we know that people will buy the lesser one, that might actually yield us more tax revenue in the long run.
Right.
Because we'll have more homes sooner than less homes.
Right, so like you would do the calculation, like do the next step of your line of questioning. What's the difference in the amount of taxes paid at a $288,000 assessment compared to a $255,000 assessment?
Right, well, that $288,000 assessment was based on the one from last year, which was 1.1
But they're-
million. Yeah,
The part
so-
that we miss when we do that
Yeah.
calculation, Mark, we went and talked to the county assessment office.
Right.
He did.
They are not basing it off of the sale price. They're standardizing across the attached units.
So example, I put an in-ground pool in my house. My neighbor and I have identical square foot. They came and reassessed my property because I put a pool in. I pulled a permit. They came out. My taxes were almost $3,000 more than my neighbor because I was assessed sooner.
Yeah.
But I have the same square foot. So I don't know. The more people that pull permits, the higher tax revenue we'll get. But the formula doesn't make sense to me how they do it. Just because I have a pool, why are my taxes higher?
Well,
It's confusing.
the point now is the homes that they have built over there now are 43,000 square foot, correct? And they're gonna be assessed at $280,160. I go in there and say, I want a smaller house, I'm gonna pay less in taxes than the houses that are already built.
Right, so you have to make an estimate of what the new assessed value is going to be in that reduction example.
And then you'll get your amounts less to the school district also, correct?
Every tax.
Every
entity
tax,
would
right,
realize a
every,
bit
right.
less.
I'm just, the school district is our biggest problem.
They are,
With
but they're the
taxes.
biggest tax rate.
Right, they're the biggest thing, yeah, that's the problem, well, they are a problem, but would it be?
I think if the delta was like $20,000-$30,000 in assessed value, that's probably hundreds
But
of
would it-
dollars less per year per home. Which if even if every single one that was smaller, it was 176 homes times $200. It's $35,000 less in tax revenue. Under that assumption, which is pure assumption.
If every house was done.
Right.
If every house was done that way,
That's
Sean.
if every single house was less, it would be a net loss of 35,000 tax revenue to the school.
Which is not material to their.
Which ultimately is not material, not even material to the township with a much smaller budget. So like the point is valid, but I think it's that when it ultimately comes down to the actual dollars coming in, it's not a material difference between the sizes of the homes.
So with the text amendment, they're asking for the board's approval to reduce the size of the homes, correct? But they didn't give you any figures to what it would actually decrease in that tax amount. Just did.
No, because they don't know.
Well, they don't.
I don't think they know here.
Yeah, they have no way of knowing
Right,
it. Yeah.
right.
Let's do.
We have no way of knowing it.
Guessing.
Thank you.
I mean, the builders comment, the market experience to date. So we know they're struggling to sell them. I'm just happy they're not presenting us with a burden that they want to try to remove the 55 or older requirement, because that's something they would have to come in front of us, right, Chris?
Make any change of that nature, they could not make that decision by themselves.
Yeah, so based on their experience to date, they're lacking sales.
Or they might just have people coming in saying, look, we don't want this large unit as a downsizing in our life. We want something a little smaller, so. But not everybody wants that large units that they're building.
And there's no budget, that revenue is not forecasted in our budget or school board budget to date.
I don't know on behalf of the school board. I believe that they do a bit more projection than we do. Because of instances like this, I never want to rely on assessment that doesn't exist.
Okay. Anyone else online for public comment? No. Okay. With that being said, does anyone on our board have any other final questions or comments? Okay. I'll move and I'll make a motion to authorize a hearing to consider the text amendment allowing the 28-foot wide lots at NV Homes, Philmont Country Club.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been moved and seconded. As described, to authorize the hearing to consider the text amendment allowing the 25-foot wide lot at NV Homes, Philmont Country Club. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Joe?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, no opposed, motion's passed, thank you. Next is review extension of review period. It's Dormer LLC, 3382 Brayborn, and it's number 2407. So, right, here we go. I didn't have this earlier. Okay, so we are in receipt of a letter from the applicant granting an extension of municipalities planning code for the 90-day review period for subdivision 2407, 3382 Brayborn Drive, waiving the requirement.
They're fully waiving the
They're
time
fully waiving
requirement
everything.
compared to granting an extension.
I'll be looking
And-
forward to presenting to the Board of Commissioners, and we'll be ready to present February 11th, 2025. That is from Philip, I don't know what's your name, Minaj. Dated January 13th, 2025.
And I, just for the board's reference, I did send him an email back because he didn't identify the LLC name that he was the representative of in that initial email. So I have that confirmation just so that it's not like they have the opportunity to pull it occur on us.
Okay, so there's really no action needed on this. We'll just accept this as submitted. Does anyone have any questions regarding this matter? Anyone from the public, any public comment? Okay, here now we'll move to the next, the building officials report. Jill or Ted?
Good evening. We had 11 meetings with contractors and homeowners. We had one building code class that we attended for accessibility. We had found 2 jobs without permits, so we're without permits. We had 29 permits issued. We were at court this month for 1 job for work without permits. Anything else?
Yeah, Ted, where were the 2 without permits? Like what?
We had one on Woodland.
Okay.
And I forget what about one is. We can get you that.
Stop work order?
Stop work orders.
Okay.
yes. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Any
other
Does
questions?
the board have any questions for Ted? Commissioner Canali, do you have any questions for Ted Millman, code enforcement? Thank you. Appreciate it. I'll accept your report, your angels as submitted. Next is Dennis's liaison report. He is liaison to the Planning Commission and the Pennypack Restoration Trust. I attended the planning commission for Commissioner Mueller. That took place on Wednesday, December 19th. So 2 applications were heard. Both were on our agenda tonight. One was 759 and 761 Fetters Mill Road, which was application 2408. The other one was 3382 Brayborn, application number 2407. Next under PERT, the end of this DENISE's report, the end of the year meeting was held on December 17th, 2024. Commissioner Mueller attended. The next meeting is on March 20th, 2025. Just a few highlights. Everyone just consider membership or gifting to the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust for a celebration or a memorial or just because. Next, they reported they're seeing beech leaf disease. It's a fungal disease that kills beech trees and some other species. So this started in Ohio and is now on the East Coast. So if you see black spots on any of the leaves of your trees or even evergreens or anything, look this up. I started researching this. It's not good, but they're keeping their eye on it. They're monitoring it and keep staying on the lookout. Most of them can be pruned. Others need treatment. So then they have their birdseed sale. It's going to take place on February 15th. So there's forms online for members and non-member pricing. And in January, I think they do such a fabulous job. They have a plant propagation workshop, their preschool nature club, and their day of service is on the 20th, and a book club. That concludes Commissioner Mueller's agenda items for tonight. Next, the chair recognizes Commissioner Blanton, Chair of the Ordinance Committee. Sean.
Thank you, Commissioner KURITZ. So the first item on my agenda for tonight is to review the animals ordinance amendments. So as you guys are probably aware, we have been talking over the last few meetings about an issue happening in Ward 2 regarding some feral cats. And so tonight, Solicitor Rice has prepared an attached draft ordinance, which would amend the township's animal regulations. In particular, it would specifically reference feral and stray cats. So in one instance of an amendment would be in Chapter 72, Article 1, Section 72-1, the definition section, which would be amended to add the following definitions: a feral cat as a homeless or wild or untamed cat, and a stray cat, any cat whose owner or keeper allows the cat to run free from the property of the owner or keeper. An additional amendment would occur in Article 2, Section 72-4. This is the nuances, subsection A. It would read as follows: no owner or person shall keep or harbor any animal, including feral or stray cats, in the township so as to create offensive odors or unsanitary conditions which are hazard to the health, safety, and welfare of the public and or residents of adjacent properties. It shall be unlawful for any person to feed feral or stray cats if such feeding causes a nuisance to neighbors or adjacent property owners. So in both these instances, I just want to make sure that we are being very explicit about stray and feral cats. And while we've been successful in citing the current situation, the offending couple under Section 4-A, we want to make sure that we were more specific for future or any future filings. The second component to this amendment would add another tier to the violations and penalty section, which would elevate the township's action to the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas. In particular, subsection B states that in the event any person is convicted 2 or more times of violating this ordinance, the township is authorized to pursue equitable relief in the Court of Common Pleas of Montgomery County. Conviction of 2 or more violations of this ordinance shall be deemed irreparable harm sufficient to support a preliminary and or permanent injunction. So again, in this particular amendment, it would allow for the township to elevate our actions against this and allow for what could be a heftier fine and punishment as a result of breaking this particular ordinance. Solicitor Rice, can you add anything I might have missed or misrepresented?
Sure. So the discussion has been over the past several months, the problem with primarily feral cats, stray cats in various places within the township. And most municipalities have on the books an ordinance, much like what's on the books now in Lower Moreland is, you file a district justice court citation, and then you go there and, typically it's just a fine. Maybe it's $100. Sometimes the landowner or the person that's being fined doesn't really have a problem paying that, and they pay it, and off everybody goes to start all over again with the same process. District Justice Court has no authority to enter an order or to enforce an order preventing somebody from violating the ordinance. That can only be done in county court. So that's the reason for that second paragraph, Sean, to make it explicit, that you get 2 strikes under this ordinance, and then after that, the township would have the option, not requirement, but the option to take the matter before a judge. And if a judge enters an order that tells you to stop doing what you're doing, that's a little bit more serious than just a $100 fine at District Justice Court. The judge has got a much wider leeway in fines and penalties. Contempt could land you in jail. So, it's there. Hopefully it's never needs to be used. But we will have the option if the board approves the ordinance. So tonight is really to authorize the advertisement of the ordinance, which would be back in front of the board at your next meeting. Any questions?
Mr. Rice, any questions from the board?
Well, just to let the board know, because Ted and Jill let me know that there's a court date scheduled for January 24th regarding this matter, right? February 24th. Oh, I'm sorry, February 24th, sorry. And this is the second time that this being brought?
So this problem's been going on for over a year now. On Ann Street. Melanie was here 2 meetings ago, was in tears expressing her frustration. Her quality of life being affected by the neighbors, how they're harboring cats, feeding cats, have heating pads outside to warm the cats up. There's another house on the property that the other day had 4 bowls out for them to feed them. They've been cited about 12 times by Jill and Ted to date. Steve had to go one time on his day off to go release a raccoon that the person trapped, along with 20-something cats that they took to the SPCA on their own to get rid of them. So it's just been a mess for this family. She's really not the only person that's complaining. A lot of the whole block are, but there's nobody that wants to step forward and put their face out there in the public. But that's why this has all started and come to fruition with the ordinance.
Thank you.
So all this does is give us the option to take it a little further.
Well, if this is the second time, then they'll almost be at their second strike, so it'll.
Listen, you've been to Tom.
Appropriately.
You've been to Tom?
Let me ask Solicitor Rice. Solicitor Rice, would if this ordinance were to pass as described, would any prior convictions against this ordinance go into effect, or would new convictions have to occur in order for the elevation of as proposed by this?
Well, I probably not the time or place to discuss specific cases or specific people. But there's an argument right now that even without this ordinance, that the township would have the right to go into county court and make the same claim. There's a general principle in Pennsylvania that violation of any ordinance is considered irreparable harm sufficient to get an injunction. So, I just thought it was important that we call it out so everyone's aware of it. Whether we could use prior convictions, I think it's certainly possible, but I don't really want to get into the details. We have a couple of specific instances going on, and as Denise said, there's a hearing scheduled sometime in February on one of those property owners.
So it sounds like just the amendments here are to allow for the township, should this happen in the future, to have a more direct path to supporting, to taking action we feel like we need to, given the way that current situation has unfolded.
Absolutely. Ted and Jill, do you want to say anything before we move?
The
Before
next hearing that we have is for 8 citations.
8 citations.
So there's 8 currently written.
Okay. Thank you for the clarity. And this is going to be the second time that you've been in front of Judge Mertz?
It's the third.
The third.
Yeah.
Okay, just for the boards for clarity.
Yeah, if there's no other questions from the board, are there any questions from the public regarding the proposed amendments to this ordinance? And any questions from Zoom?
Commissioner Canali?
Yeah, Commissioner Cal, anything that you would like to add?
Nope.
No.
If there are no questions from the board and no questions from the community, then I would like to make a motion to authorize advertising the ordinance as described.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to advertise the ordinance as described for it's related to the animals with regard to some emphasis on feral cats. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 No opposed. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this will come before us in the February meeting after advertisement to potentially pass. All right. Moving on, next item on my agenda is to review and consider zoning hearing board appointment. So in December, Manager Hoffman advised us that the term for the zoning hearing board chair, Meryl Twerski, was set to expire on January 3rd, 2025. Staff recommends that Meryl's be reappointed as the chair, and so I will ask the board if there's any questions about reappointing Meryl to the chair of the zoning hearing board.
I do not. She's currently the chairman. She was the chairman in the past, and you know, she's just doing a nice job.
Very minor clarification. Your appointment would just be to the zoning hearing board. They reorganize themselves.
Yes.
To chair.
Right, exactly. Yes. And I think they're reorganizing.
Yes, as part of their January.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any questions from the public? Anyone on Zoom? All right, so there's no questions. I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 25-04, reappointing Meryl Twerski to the zoning hearing board for a term commencing January 4th, 2025 and ending January 3rd, 2028.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve resolution 2504, reappointing Meryl Twerski to the zoning hearing board as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you. Motion's passed.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
My third item on my agenda is to review the zoning hearing board agenda and decisions. So I'll start with the upcoming meeting. So zoning hearing board will reorganize and has 2 applications on this January agenda. Zoning hearing board is meeting this Thursday. That's the 13th, I believe. The first application is 16th feet.
You're further along than you gave me credit.
Application number 24-33. So this is the continuation of the application for 78 Tomlinson Road. They seek variances to reduce the required 29 parking spaces to allow parking spaces which back into the right of way, to permit parking spots less than 7 feet from the building, to permit a fleet vehicle parking lot which does not provide parking spaces above and beyond the minimum required spaces, and to permit a fleet vehicle to park on a non-improved surface. Additionally, a variance is sought to permit a counseling office use in the BOI district. The second application is application number 24-40. This is the application of Robert and Alona Sifliku for the Randolph Street lot, which the board discussed at the December meeting. Their application did not end up being heard at the zoning hearing board's December meeting. As a reminder, this is the lot that is not conforming. They want to construct a new home on there. They're looking for relief to allow that to occur. At the December hearing, the zoning hearing board made 5 decisions. The first was for application number 24-34. This was the application of Ahmed Ramazov of 612 Corsa Drive. He sought a variance to allow for a front yard fence height of 6 feet that was less than 50% open. This variance was denied. The second application, application number 24-35, the application of Michael Netto, 2372 Boyd Road. We sought a variances to allow for construction of a 1,000 square foot addition on the side and rear of the home, which would extend an existing non-conforming setback horizontally and exceed the 25% lot coverage. These variances were granted. Application number 24-36 was the application of Dritton and Susan Kalanja of 456 Andrew Road. They sought variances to permit construction of a one-story addition on a non-conforming building within the front yard setback and increasing their lot coverage to 30.7%. These variances were granted. Application number 24-38. This was the application of Anton and Victoria Kaminsky of 1721 Reading Road. They sought a variance to permit the reduction in the 10-foot rear setback to 3 feet 6 inches to allow construction of a swimming pool. This variance was granted. And finally, the application number 24-39, the application of Ming Kwang Zhang of 3736 Pine Road. They were seeking a variance to permit an increase in lot coverage to 40% for a driveway constructed without permits. That variance was denied. Any questions about the upcoming zoning hearing board agenda items or past decisions of the December meeting?
Application 2439 for Pine Road, that's where they put the driveway in. What happens now? Have they remove it, add grass?
They haven't removed it yet. They're coming back with a new plan on removing part of the driveway on the one side, the dentist office side, and part of the driveway that was done without a permit. And they would like to keep part of that for a basketball court.
But they still driving over the sidewalk to get to it. They didn't get the curb cut out approval yet from the state, from PennDOT.
So the PennDOT denied that permit because they would have 2 driveway openings within the school zone.
So my next thing is, at what point is it a safety hazard with it being across the street from a school that they're driving over a sidewalk?
So we have asked them to put grass back from the driveway to a certain amount up, so they can't drive over that. So we've asked them to at least go back and redesign their plan. So it's not all just driveway and they're driving over a sidewalk. We've been in constant contact with them. We were up there today for another issue, so it's just ongoing.
Good luck.
Ted, Jill, how long do they have a certain amount of time to submit and comply?
So they said so we had a meeting for their newest plan for the driveways, and it's at their engineer's office to remove what needs to be removed and then reconfigure so they stay at that existing lot coverage. Yeah.
Okay.
So if it's like a couple weeks and we still haven't heard anything, then we'll reach out to them again.
Okay, Joe Canale, Commissioner Canale, this is your ward. Do you have any questions for Ted and Jill? He might be frozen.
No.
Okay.
All right, well, if there are no other questions, I'll move on to my last item, which is my liaison report. I'm liaison to the zoning hearing board, which I just reported on, and the building code board of appeals, which still has not met, and so I have nothing to report. And that concludes my report for the evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Blanton. As chair, recognizes Commissioner Pace, Chair of the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner. Item S, review the 2025 paving program. Steve's recommendation, you want to go over the recommendation or want me to read them out? You got it?
Whatever you want.
You can do it. You got it.
I'm recommending we do a base bid of Barry, Betsy, Bonnie, Heather Road, cul-de-sac, Pheasant Drive, from Pine to the cul-de-sac, Coach Lake Terrace, Cranberry, Woodward, and Newton. And then a couple alternates, Airsden, Wincoop, and Murray, and a second alternate as Heaton Hill, Orchard, Hale, and Dogwood. I did reach out to Bernathen. They're doing a sidewalk project, so they're out this year. Okay. So I would request the board that authorize me to put this out for bid.
Anyone have any questions on those streets or areas?
No.
And maybe just one thing for the board's notice. This is purely a Lower Moreland only project this year. So we don't have any collaboration with Aqua or Pico from underground projects they have done. We are expecting, I guess, a decent amount of work to come up during 2025.
Yeah, so Aqua has reached out to us, that are engineering, that they're doing a lot of design for some, looks like some major development, replacement of
So we'll continue to collaborate with them so that in the likely event that we can have them pay us for the half width rather than them do it, those projects will be reflected starting probably 2026 or 7 based on whatever their construction schedule is. But just wanted you to be aware, last year we did something like $700,000 of paving.
About 300 last
Yeah, it's gonna be in the 400s this year, but it's all Lower Moreland driven. And all of that still is 100% funded by your liquid fuels money. It is not any local real estate tax that goes towards that.
Are these, I forget your process last year, being new. Is this part of like a sort of rotation that you have, or were these identified?
Yeah, so everything goes into a rotation of it, but it's more or less just looking to see what's worn out, what's not. There's roads, we have Barry and Betsy Monty are pretty bad. Besides that, you know, like Heaton Road's bad, Valley Road's bad, but these other roads, try to group them so we get a better price, first thing. And then the last few years, our big thing was, let's do all the main roads into the developments. So if you notice a lot of these roads now, we already did the main roads, these will fill out so that whole neighborhoods are done.
Along with your sealing project.
Yeah, as long as with our crack sealing. I would love to do more sealing than we did before, but that's.
Yeah, the sealing project now is, we have a crack sealer for like public works use.
Yeah.
So that's where you'll see like smaller projects. Yeah, we also were doing like full width.
We'll do a
sealing
lot
couple
of,
years
yeah,
ago.
we'll do a lot of milling. Valley Road it's just spring on to get out there. We're gonna mill out a couple big patches and get them in there and seal that up. The roads that look really to seal the cracks are the ones that we paved within the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Get those roads.
And I know Chris and Steve, we spoke about it. There's a few roads in Ward 1, in Ruth's ward, but we're waiting for some other projects to go through before.
Yeah, I'd love to
That
do
road doesn't
Walton,
get-
but that's why
Walton
I'd like to do Ayrton and Winthrop at least,
Yeah.
and then we can do Walton when hopefully the bridge is done. I
When
can
the
work
bridge
that
is
with Valley, Fetters Mill, and Creek Road. will be
I think
due
you're
then.
just waiting for me to sprain an ankle.
That's
Well, if there's any, holes or anything.
Wow,
Let them know,
Our
right?
operations plan is that we get a call, we just go pick Ruth up and then.
That's right, patch it up.
I'll pick you up.
That's right.
Piggybacker.
No.
Any questions from the public? So I'd like to make a motion to put out the 2025 paving bid as the roads are described, with the base bid plus alternate 1 and alternate 2.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to bid the 2025 resurfacing project recommendations, including the base bid, alternates 1 and 2. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item T.
Opposed, no opposed, the motion is passed. Thank you.
Item T, keep Steve right at the podium. Public Works.
I'll just give you a couple of things. You guys have my report. The playground at Ridgeway, they did get that started. They're really making really good progress, and I would say there's a good chance they'll be done this week. But they're really flying down there. With the little bit of snow we had, hopefully we're not gonna have any more, but I just remind everyone, we have a really good, on our Public Works page under snow, has a really good outline of the procedures we follow for snow. It's always good to update that. There's a couple things missing that I just remind everyone about, if you can talk to your constituents. The portable basketball courts, if they could just drag them off the street when it's gonna snow. If you know it's gonna snow, we're gonna plow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put your trash out. Don't put your can out, because it's gonna get blown over. And every street in Lower Moreland is an emergency when we declare an emergency. But even when we don't, it's always better if you can put them in your driveway, if you can. So it's just a reminder. And then I have
cars.
Yeah, cars and drivers. And then I actually have a little video. Hopefully you guys don't have to do this. This does work most of the time on how to actually shovel so that we don't push the snow back into your driveway.
That's great. I love it.
So when you're standing in the street looking at your house, if you put all the snow, the majority of snow to the left of your driveway, looking at your house from the street to the left, then you go back dig a little trench out. The bigger you dig the trench out on the right, the better, because that's where the snow from the plow is gonna end up. So if you have a snow blower, you're set. You'll end up with 90% less snow in your driveway. So I do it. My wife does it for me. But it does work 99% of the time. So hopefully it doesn't snow, we have to plow, but if we do.
Say it one more time.
Right. So looking at the street, looking at your house, put all the snow back to the right, then go back to the right, dig a trench out maybe 10 feet up against the curb or in the grass line. The snow from the plow that's coming up will end up there, not in your driveway.
Okay.
That's the lane the plows come.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, it's an unwinnable situation. Somebody gets ahead of it, gets out, they clear their drive apron, and then the plow truck comes by and puts it all right back.
Yeah, but always tell you.
We absolutely understand that it's frustrating to people.
Do not do the end of your driveway till we're at the curb. If it's plowable snow, I can guarantee you we're coming back. It takes about 4 hours to go through a route. So if you see that he's this far from the curb, he's coming back. So if you want to, you don't want to follow that, don't do the end of your driveway.
And it's not like there's a public works guy in the truck laughing maniacally as they put the snow back. They are a well-intentioned person who has been out for a full day doing that work. And we're just trying to make sure that we don't put people into this.
And there's nothing worse than seeing them have to, zigzag around a car or one
Yeah.
of these.
So I mean, it makes for a better job. It's better. It's better
Safer
for
for them, safer
if
for
you
them.
can.
Leah,
My driveway's 8 feet from my neighbor, so I go to the left, they go to the left,
Right.
theirs is coming on mine.
You got it. That's why you want to do that trench in the right, so that it ends up in there.
So Leah, you put out on Facebook, could you add these suggestions also?
It's not gonna snow. So
Prior to, if we ever have another snowstorm.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are totally jinxing us.
I shoveled the last few times, so 2 times, so I really don't want to do that again.
Next item U is my liaison for HVAA. Right now, they just started baseball indoor winter training. Basketball started for in-house at Red Line Gym. I know there's still some applications coming across for pickleballers, but the gym is really tied up except during the day when the kids are in school, I guess, right now. Nothing else really to report on HVA.
Softball's probably starting to.
Winter softball training, so yes, indoor training.
They haven't had at the gym, so indoor training, where they having it?
So they HVA rented a spot up in Newtown. So it's a good hike up there. All various days depending on what age group, but they rented a spot up in Newtown because they don't have the indoor facility.
Sure.
So they're up in there for winter training.
Is it a special baseball place or something you can warehouse?
It was a converted warehouse. You walk in, there's batting cages set up, turf, so you can do some hitting, fielding, pitching.
Good deal.
That concludes my agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Pace. Next, the chair recognizes Commissioner Canali, Chair of the Public Safety Committee. Joe?
Thank you, President KURITZ. My first order of business tonight is the MOU between the township and the school district. Chris, I'm going to turn that over to you to summarize.
And then I'm going to punt to Chief Smith.
There we go.
All right, so there's 2 existing MOUs with the school district that deal with this. This one specifically deals with, it's mandated by the Pennsylvania Safe Schools Act that we have an MOU with the school district that dictates when the school has to call us, when they have an option to call us for certain crimes or incidents, and when they are not required to call us. So that's what this memorandum of understanding does. It generally follows a memorandum of understanding model policy that's published by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Good news here is I did meet with Dr. Best as well as Dr. Cole just to make sure that everything is in line with what both of us want. There's been no changes to this since we had this initiated in 2019 with our when this was required initially. So there's no changes to this. This is just granting me the approval to sign off on that agreed upon MOU with the school district. They have meetings coming up, I believe, in March or April where they'll do their final review of it, and then I would sign off on it afterwards as long as there's no issues or concerns. So that's all this part is doing here.
Any questions from the board on this?
No.
Anything from the public? I'd like to make a motion to authorize Chief Smith on behalf of the Lower Moreland Police Department to renew this memorandum of understanding with the Lower Moreland Township School District.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded to authorize Chief Smith on behalf of the Lower Moreland Police Department to renew this memorandum of understanding with the Lower Moreland Township School District as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you, commissioners. Motion's passed.
Yeah.
All right. Next up on my agenda is Chief Smith's report. Keep on going, Scott.
So my whole report is submitted. Everybody should have that. Just some highlights a little bit for the year as well as for the month of December to close out the year. So our calls for service, we had just over almost 1,600 calls for service, bringing our year total to 17,707 calls for service in the year of 2024. Averages out to just under 1,500 calls for service that our officers are handling per month. The most prevalent calls, as we can expect, probably we do have a lot of alarms, medicals, vehicle accidents, and traffic enforcement. Our highest crime of the year was theft from automobiles, which I know is not a shock to any of you because I bring that up every single month, unfortunately. It is a regional problem. We did have over 60 reports of theft from autos. Generally speaking, they come in groups. So if there's 60 of them, they could have been from 10 different incidences with 6 theft from autos each, roughly, just for argument's sake. We did, on a good note, make 4 arrests for theft from automobiles in 2024. So very proud of our officers and detectives for all the work in doing that. The unfortunate part in that is every single one of those arrests are repeat offenders for the exact same crimes, unfortunately. So they're not really learning their lesson. In the month of December, we did have a couple different incidences, one in the upper end of the township, one in the lower end. Again, I'll just remind everybody what the broken record I am. You lock your cars, all the videos we're seeing, they're not entering locked cars. They'll go open and try your doors and then they walk away. No one is breaking windows, at least at this point. Hopefully it stays that way. The cars that are locked, they're not entering. So these cars are all being unlocked or left unlocked and the actors are getting inside. So we are working on some things to try and combat this on top of what we're already doing with our patrols. So hopefully we can, again, regionally, this is a problem. So we're also working together with other departments to try and help stop this stuff from going on. Some 2024 highlights for everybody. We did have over 150 arrests total in the township. Again, multiple burglary and theft arrests, which again is the great work of the officers. Sometimes we're called out to scenes, but these ones take a lot of investigation, a lot of work by the officers. So we're very happy that they're able to do this and hopefully prevent some of these things from occurring. Did complete over 1,600 hours of training. This does not include where the training that our SWAT officers and negotiators are, which would probably double that number. But our officers are doing a lot of training to make sure they're up to date with everything that's occurring in policing and that we're providing you all the best service we can. And another thing I'm very proud of, we did take part in over 30 either small to large community events. We always try to be out there. We're spreading the word for a lot of these crime trends, as well as, meet and greets and trying to get to know the community and see what they want us to do and how we can do things better. December specific events, we did complete an emergency preparedness training for the Huntingdon Valley Surgery Center. We kind of partnered with the fire departments, the EMS, and kind of an all hazards approach to try and help them respond to any kind of emergency, whether it's a police emergency, a fire emergency, a medical emergency. That's kind of something we as a police department have done for years. And I know the fire departments and EMS are doing the same things for some of these businesses in town. Crime Scene Club is still continuing. We had another 8 to 12 participants each month, depending on who can show up. These are 7th to 12th grade students, generally in the area. I look at it as an early recruitment for us. Police recruiting is having a problem nationwide. But the more we're doing these things and kind of introducing ourselves to the youths in our area, I'm hopeful that that'll kind of improve our in the future. And that does run through March. And last but not least, we do have our bus patrol to report to you that we've had 935 violations that were reported to us since September 3rd to December 31st. We are approving, our traffic safety officers are approving about 82% of that. So there's over 700 violations that we're approving. They are being very diligent in reviewing the videos to make sure that people do have an opportunity to stop. If it's something where the bus stop sign is coming out too close, they are not approving those if the person didn't have a chance to fully stop. We do have some repeat offenders, but most of those are occurring in the same time frame, so they probably hadn't received their first violation. Good news is the numbers have gone down a little bit each and every month, so I'm hopeful that we're gonna stop some of this from occurring. And I will tell you, it's a far larger number than I ever expected we would see. And the good news is our officers have not had to spend any time in court for any of these. The way the law was revamped, any appeal to any of these goes to a PennDOT attorney first. And generally speaking, that requires more funds for the people to put up. So they generally just pay the civil fine in the first part and then don't worry about going any further. So, and now this could take a couple months for us to get some of these violations if appeal.
Does the flashing light on the bus go first before the arm comes out?
So you'll see the yellow light will flash first to let you know they're going to be intending to stop. Once the stop sign comes out and you see the red or amber light, that's when you're required to stop. So as soon as that stop arm is out completely, some of the other minutia of the law is that the bus has to be fully stopped too. So in our non-approvals, I have a year-end report that shows the different reasons our traffic safety officers are disapproving them. So sometimes if the bus is still moving and they're just trying to come to that complete stop themselves, if the stop sign is out and that would constitute a violation technically, the law allows us to say, well, the bus has to be stopped. So that would be one thing. But yeah, it's the stop sign itself that it has to be out and then the person has to stop.
Do they track if it's, say, I went around the bus 3 times and it's my 3rd violation, the 2nd violation, more than 1?
No, it's still going to be that same civil violation that comes through. So I don't think we had any that were the person. No, I mean, it can show up in our list because we do have the names of the people that have that the citations have been approved or the violations have been approved. But they don't have a list specifically that says, yeah, these are your top violators. And they are throughout the township. So some of the ones that were the higher numbers are along County Line Road. It's a much wider road. People are under the misbelief that just because you're on the opposite side of the road, you don't need to stop, but you still need to stop. So those are violations of the school bus stop line. So County Line Road was a big one. Philmont Avenue is a bigger one as well. But not one specific area that gets a lot of them. They are all throughout the township. And generally speaking, they're all on the main roads.
Thank you.
Any questions with any of that or any concerns? I just have a quick question just on behalf of the public, because I've got a number of messages about car theft. What's the best way for someone to report that? Like how valuable is it to you for someone to report that if they suspect it or they think it's going to happen? I would say, and we encourage that too. So we do have a partnership with Ring, myself included. I get emails. So I would say call into the station is an easy way. Some people don't feel like that warrants a call to 911. What I tell everybody though is you're doing the same thing because our internal people that are answering the phones have to transfer you to the 911 dispatchers anyway. We have to by protocol. They have to do that to initiate the call for service. Doesn't mean they can't let the officers know, hey, you're going to be getting a call in whatever area so you can start responding. But calling 911 is the most efficient. Call every time because they're usually not going to be the only one that's a victim of these. And sometimes people aren't calling and they're posting it on Ring, but thankfully we're able to kind of see the areas. So I know our detectives will immediately get on there and ask the people to just call into the station because we don't know their addresses. We just get an area where they're at sometimes. So we do encourage them to call as well if we don't think they have. So definitely call because there could be, even if they just tried at their car, sometimes they do wear gloves, but if they're not wearing gloves, we can possibly process that and get forensic evidence to prove who was doing this. So definitely want to call, and it helps us just kind of document everything that's occurring. And the more violations we have against these people, hopefully their bail would be higher, the charges would be higher, and we can prevent them. But definitely want to call and lock your cars. Yeah.
The people in Rye Valley said that they did lock their cars. There were some windows that were broken.
We had I believe on Rye Valley specifically, there was a mirror that was broken off. And if there are the rare occurrences where if they break a window, but usually they're only gonna do that if they see you've left something in the car. Keys, a wallet, a purse, they may do that. That's more prevalent at our walking trail parking lots. Because people go for their walks, they go for their runs, they don't bring that stuff with them if they don't hide it in the car. Or if it's very visible that they get out of the car and where they hide it, because people do sit in the lot and watch them. That's when we generally get the broken windows for those. So those ones we tell people don't have anything out in plain view when you park your car.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, next up would be Fire Marshal Shalley.
Just a couple quick things. Monday night, December 23rd, the Huntingdon Valley skilled nursing facility had a major broken sprinkler pipe on the second floor above the ceiling. And at first there was it was a fire alarm, and then the fire company went back out again the second time. At that point, Mark Showmaker and myself, we responded. Ted Middleman had called us, and we ended up evacuating 85 residents from that home to other facilities. That started at around 10:30, 11 o'clock and ended at about 9 o'clock that morning. We were close to 14 hours on the scene, and between Bernath and EMS, all the other agencies, the county, fire department, it was an outstanding job. We are the only township in the county that has evacuated a nursing home within 6 months, twice within 6 months. So the county emergency management has asked us to put on a presentation on the pros and cons, good things and bad things that we did at the April emergency management meeting.
Well, that was within the state.
Excuse me?
That was within the state.
Within the state, excuse me, I'm sorry, within the state, yes. So today we had just Mark will touch on it. So we investigated a fire on Hoagland Lane. It was fire in the garage. The resident, when she saw the fire in the garage, she shut the door between the garage and the kitchen, which probably gave her family extra time to get out. That caused us still under investigation. The other in codes, the other building that was shut down, Ted and I went out for a UNO fire inspection on 390 Red Lion Road. When I went out there was work being done without permits, and I called Ted to come down and we shut the job due to no permits, and we found numerous violations in the building. We're working with that right now to get that taken care of. And we did clear out we completed some past UNOs, UNO / fire inspections in December in 2024, and we're looking to get a couple more cleaned up for 2025. Anything else for me?
No.
Any questions from the board?
I want to thank you and all of you for your response and your collaboration with regard to, well, in my mind, it's Manor Care, but it's Valley Skilled Nursing Facility. I had stopped to drop off some goodies at the fire company, and I was with some of the firefighters that were there for a few hours, and they left their house or getting ready for the holidays, all of you. It was a freezing cold night, and 6 firefighters showed up, all different various ages and gender. And it was amazing to just be there and watch all of you on scene, and the county reporting and their devotion. It was unfortunate, like none of them were able to drive a truck to get another truck out, but Ted was reporting back to Jess, and it was the devotion, and just leaving your homes right before a holiday. I'm sure there was lists long that your wives and family wanted you or needed you to do, or even pick up some last minute presents. So I really appreciated that. I spoke to Ted right away and thanked him. And I know when I drove by, I saw the amount of mutual aid companies there, and you know, I knew the job that you were all doing because Ted was reporting also to Jess, how he's trying transportation, whatnot is coming across the screen. It was just, I mean, I was there for a few hours and if you want to really have a feel, embarrassed to say that I've been there a little bit of time. So I think it's something that all of our commissioners should just maybe go to the fire company, hang out for a little bit and see what really goes on. So it was really not, I really want to thank each and every one of you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions from the board or public? Thank you. Chief Showmaker.
Good evening, everyone. Try to keep this short too. I did include a lot of information in my packet for you to review your year-end stats. But as usual, my joint report was submitted to both committees, to the manager's office. You'll see a number of different items in there that we've been working on. One of the things I wanted to highlight was the tower ladder. We did our factory training in December. We had a number of folks from both organizations involved in that. It was very, very, very cold outside when we did that training. That training continues on to this day. We're getting the groups out every day on it, trying to get everybody ready to go and comfortable. And we anticipate putting that truck into service probably within the next week or two if everything goes well. We've been busy also interviewing a number of folks for the positions that we're putting on for the interim plan that we came up with for next year. In fact, we interviewed about 22 individuals. We hired 4 full-timers and a number of per diem people on that task. They will be in place starting, they're going to be officially starting January 13th at full staffing levels that we've determined that we're going to be doing for the 2025. Most of them are on board now working as well. Had a couple of calls on 12/13/24, Philmont and Buxmont. We were dispatched to a vehicle extrication where we had a multi-vehicle accident with one vehicle on the side with one person entrapped. They were extricated from the vehicle and we were in service for about 45 minutes on that call. As the fire marshal mentioned, on 12/16/24, 3441 Hoagland Lane for a dwelling fire. That was approximately 6:30 in the morning. We were on a shift change up at the career staff. The sniping crew was in place. We had an immediate response on that. We had good response to it, quick response. We were on the fire very quickly. Held the fire damage to the garage area, which is attached to a very large structure. And the outcome of that was very good. And we, in my opinion, saved that house from burning to the ground within the next few minutes if we didn't get in there and mitigate the incident as well as we did, as quickly as we did. As Bob also mentioned, at the skilled nursing home, that was actually what we declared as a mass casualty incident. And that is because of the people we had to move. As mentioned, there was 84 that we moved out of. There was actually 85 residents on site. One was taken by a family member, but these are all non-ambulatory type folks. So it requires a lot of planning and resource allocation. Again, as you mentioned, it's the holidays. Bob and I were both on vacation. I think it was on vacation for 2 hours when the call came in.
2 hours.
Bob was off already. We normally try to use private ambulance service and make contracts for the facility with the facility doing that. Unfortunately, nobody wants to work in that time, so we had to tap into the 911 system to do that. We set a plan up where we spread the response agencies out throughout Montgomery County and Bucks County to handle it, so we didn't strip any one area because it's very challenging to meet the demands of the EMS. As you know, we've been talking about that for a long time. But it did work out well, and as it was mentioned, it was 14 hours that we were in service on that incident. So that was actually a big improvement because if you remember, the artist we moved 52 people, and that took us just as long. So extreme hot on that one, extreme cold on this one. And we were fighting the elements because snow was coming. We wanted to get the people moved out of there and into a safe place in a reasonable amount of time. And code enforcement was very valuable to us that night because we had to make a determination whether we were closing that facility and moving those people or not. It was very early decided that this building was unsafe for anybody to be occupying in. So we had to make that decision to move those folks. There were conditions within the building that were making it very challenging to do that. We've had collapsed ceilings. We've had structural damage to the roofing structure from the pipe break, water all over the place. It was just a mess and it was a lot of work. and great effort by everybody involved in it. So I'm very thrilled with that. I'll give one more call of interest. Last Monday night, which actually is in January, and we'll talk about that. We were up on Mettler Lane for a structure fire. Both companies were dispatched initially for a carbon monoxide alarm on the south end of town. Okay, and then this call came in at the same time for Mettler for a kitchen fire. So we had crews immediately on the road running. We had great volunteer response that night because it's a training night for both organizations. On arrival, we had a fire in the stove area that extended up and into the attic space. Got water on the fire pretty quick on that one as well. The damage was limited to that kitchen area and just a small port of the attic. But again, great stock, great work by everybody involved on that. For call volumes for Brenathan, I'll give you those first. For the emergency medical calls for the month, there was 11 in Brenathan, 124 in Lower Moreland, 84 other calls. Total calls for the month for EMS, 219. Year-to-date calls, 2024, 2,218 calls. That's 200 calls more than any other year that we've had. So our demands are going up. On fire calls for Brenathan, 3 in Brenathan, 29 in Lower Moreland, 3 other calls for a total of 35. They ended up with 448 calls for the year. Huntingdon Valley Fire Company, 31 into Lower Moreland, 3 into Brenathan, 6 other calls for a total of 40 for the month. They ended up with 472 calls for the year. These are the highest numbers that either one of the fire companies have ever reached during the year. Usually around the high 390s, into the low 400s, but as you can see, all our services, the demand increases have increased dramatically. We have made some improvements over the 2024 year to our staffing levels. As you know, the EMS, we put on the power shift during the daytime, which really panned out. We had 131 on another type calls. Someone went 2 depth, 3 depth on the calls. You notice we went from 6% in Ken Shouter's report, where we missed calls because we were out on multiple calls at the time. We went for that coverage of 6% down to 3.7%, which means we did good. It's a good grade on our report card for that. Same with the fire calls. If you look, I put in 2 little documents just to show you we had improvements by managing the stipend program and working with Ted and Kate on that. We're able to manage the resources a little bit and spread them out. We have a slight increase of meeting that requirement that we were trying to, or our benchmark that we established that was at 49%. We got it up to 53% by doing that. Slight increase, but it's an improvement. So, and that's a low cost improvement. With that said, again, I submitted all your the yearly numbers that Ken put together for the EMS. He did a comparison. You can see through 2009 to current, so you'll get to see how those increases look and give you a little bit of idea of how busy we're actually getting. Other than that, that's pretty much what I have, unless you have any questions.
Is there any type of call this year that you noticed that drove the numbers up?
Not particularly. I know on the EMS side, we do a lot of mutual aid down because again, we're all being covered by each other. There's so many calls, we just can't meet those demands. The turnaround time is a little bit longer because you respond, you treat, you take the patient to the hospital, and then we got to get back in service for the next call. So while we're out, our second one may be taking a call, or a third call comes in, and maybe a mutual aid company coming in to help us. We do the same thing going out the other way. That's where some of our increases go to.
So because we have additional capacity, our numbers are going because we can take more.
Yes, but we try to take that second call and then we try to cover our lower level calls and Brenathan calls from that as much as possible. But they could be deployed out depending on how scarce we are. So we all help each other. That's what it comes down to.
But I know we've talked about with the Crescent Fields and like those types of calls. Was that something that bumped in 2024 relative?
They're up, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's more people living in there now. But if you look, those numbers are actually in there. You'll be able to see those.
There's 156 calls, so a little less than one every.
Yeah. To that facility.
Yeah, compared to like say 92 in Valley's Nursing, which was many fewer.
Right. I'm looking for it. So Crescent Fields had 56. Carson Terrace had 44. Artist had 50. 71 to Glory Day Manor, 92 to Glory Day Towers, and 92 to Huntingdon Valley Skilled Nursing. So they're all up from what they used to be. And again,
so Sean, going back
I'm sorry.
Sean, going back to what you were saying though, if you're looking at the second ambulance coverage,
Mhm.
we're actually up by 100% on our coverage rates, actually over 100%
That's
covering
right.
that second ambulance, which gave us an extra almost 60 calls right there. So a 5% increase by putting on that power shift. And outside the area, we're actually up by almost 20% for transports also. As Mark was saying, with the limited manpower that we have in the county, we have been going out and assisting mutual aid in the surrounding townships.
I've been looking at the calls by hour. Your power shift is from 6 to 6.
6 to 6, that's correct. Now, when you look at the calls by hours, are you looking at Huntingdon Valley statistics, or are you looking at
I
Brenathan?
think it's yes, it's
Yeah, I don't have the Brenathan by hour on that.
Okay, it's on page 179. If that's want to look at it. So your power shift is from 6 to 6.
That's for the EMS. And again,
That's
what you're
for
looking at
EMS.
is the Huntingdon Valley
What
Fire
is
Company, that's
the
not there.
so what's the word? The stipend people, what do
That would be the Huntingdon Valley, that's the stipend crew, right?
the stipend crew, what are their hours? Are
They work 6 to 6 also, and then we have a night assignment now from 6 p to 12 a.
It looks like 7 to 7 would actually cover more calls. I mean, just.
Well, that's why we put
gross,
that night piece in to cover those few little that were increasing from the 6 to 7 at night. But we found that that's what's been giving our percentages a little bit higher, meeting that benchmark of the 1720 been established.
And how about the folks that you're getting for stipend now? Are you getting a nice mix? Are you getting people who can drive?
You want to take that?
We are getting there. We have a couple new applicants. We're getting a couple possible drivers, but not as many drivers as we would like.
Okay.
It's very challenging, it's very hard, and when you say stipend, you gotta understand, it's a very low amount of funds to reimburse them for like expenses like dinner or lunch or whatever. That's what it's really designed for. The folks we get don't always sign up. Sometimes they don't show up, sometimes they do. It's unpredictable what we're gonna have. The driver thing's a big one. When we don't have drivers for the stipend crew, now what we're doing, we put an agreement into place for insurance coverages. We'll move the firefighters here that wouldn't be able to go calls as a driver up to the Brenathan station. And they fill out that apparatus up there for the fire. And it's been working out really good. They like being up there and communicating with each other, and they do training all the time as well. So that's been a big benefit to that program as I see it. But it's really challenging to get the people and get the people we would like to have are doing that.
For those who, because I feel like, I don't know how many, but we were hitting caps, right, for the amount of participation in that program.
Yes.
Do those reset annually, or do those, like, 2025 hits, those caps go, or that person goes back to zero?
They go back to zero.
And that,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
what
we maxed out on a number of them, and now those folks are back and
that's
into the schedule again.
Okay, I was just curious how that worked. Thank you.
We have a good mechanism for tracking that.
What's that?
We have a good mechanism for tracking.
Yes, Kate does a tremendous job on that portion of it. She's really on top of that and provides us the numbers.
The mechanism is Huntingdon Valley is managing it directly.
Yeah, and they do a great job with it because it's a hard program to keep on top. And it can be frustrating.
I have a question with regard to the EMS. You're getting another call, mutual aid, pick someone up, transport them. You're getting paid for that, right?
If we transport, they get billed. That's correct. Now,
Show up not needed.
Yeah, well, yeah, unless we provide a service.
Right.
But for the most part, it's transport based on that. Another important thing I failed to mention, we spent a lot of time trying to get to a unified number for the organizations. As of January 6th, working with the county who assigned us the number 19, we were able to get that 19 established and into place. That was a big task because that requires all our radios to be reprogrammed, all our CADs to be reprogrammed. I worked with the chief on a number of the radio issues we had, getting the police department's frequencies into certain radios so we can monitor what's going on for our cross events. It was huge, but we got it in place. I think we were in place 10 minutes and we had a call. So it worked out pretty good. So far it's going good. Everybody's, on the same page when we get to the scene. Everybody knows the new numbers. Sometimes you forget that, we switch, but it's getting there, but it's working out very well. It's bringing us together, and to me, it's the first step in the future. So I'm very thrilled to have that done and accomplished. So
were we able to get all everything relabeled? And I know there was new equipment.
we're in the process of it. The Huntingdon Valley group is in the process of having their turnout gears switched over to reflect that. They have their identification shields on their helmets are coming in and being put into place. Seeing the apparatus, we're trying to get a quote. We've met with people. It's hard to get the quotes in. The Brenathan folks, their trucks got done today. It's the same company we're working with. He was supposed to give me the quote. I never got it, but we got busy with calls, so I didn't get to see him. So, and then we're dealing with some of the other issues that are going to be plaguing us in the future, like our licensure for EMS is a big deal. We have to make sure that we do this properly because it can impact our ability to bill, especially Medicare and Medicaid. It's a huge thing that I know nothing about, and I'm learning as we go. So we actually met today with a group to go over some of the processes that does the billing for us. And then there was an attorney that is on board that works with the EMS groups. A couple questions were posed to them. We're getting some responses back on that. So it's a huge undertaking to get done. It's not going to happen fast, but we're on the path and we're moving forward. That's what I'm.
Another quick question with regard to EMS. So you didn't mutually aid, or you didn't take those calls, you're just leaving the ambulance sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to answer the call, figure you might be able to have a transport and generate some income with that second ambulance.
Oh, absolutely. But, we're also trying to make sure that we're taking care of our own. The primary ambulance may be going out quite a bit, but we want to keep that second ambulance. We keep them both up, but sometimes we'll take it down depending on our man purchase to keep them here.
That's on the second.
That's correct.
So the first primary ambulance
goes.
If we're dispatched from the
Right.
county, we're going where the county tells us to go.
That's correct.
So you can't take your first ambulance and not participate in the bigger.
But again, as Joe mentioned, it's a shared responsibility between everybody. If we don't have that in system, everything fails. No one's going to come.
All right, so the second ambulance, you get two calls coming in. One's from Lower Moreland or Brenathan, and another one's outside the township. How do you decide? You're going to take
First call takes first call, second call takes the second one.
But they come in.
Priority, that's how they
Right,
send
well, the
us.
first one's out.
Unless they reassign us.
Say the first ambulance is out, the second call comes in.
Right.
And you have two calls coming at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
One's outside the town, one's inside.
They're assigned by unit,
They're
so
assigned.
it's done by the computer.
Okay, so that computer has it down to the minutia of where
That's
you're going.
correct. Like we
Okay.
have 319-1, 319-2 are our two EMS
Gotcha.
units. Soon after 319-3, we ordered a third ambulance. It's kind of a backup ambulance for everything because these things break down too. And we need to make sure we're covering things. So when that call goes out, the computer aided dispatch assigns it to, say, 319-1. They get that specific call. The other one gets the other specific call. Does that answer what you're looking for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You have to go where the county tells
Where the county tells you.
Well, they tell us, unless there's a
Okay.
problem, and they may change that up too. They may, or we say we're closer to this call, they may reassign the other one. Because the other ambulance could be coming back from the hospital and get dispatched to something.
Okay.
And that happens all the time.
While they're en route back, they could get dispatched.
That's correct.
Now,
Okay.
in here you referred to 355, but now it's.
Well, it's now the 319 number. That's what we've been assigned with the 19 changer.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Good.
the name still says Brenathan Fire Company on the side.
Yeah, I just had to figure.
Yeah.
It's to sink in.
So you're thinking that the new ladder will be in service in about a week?
To 2 weeks, that's what we're trying.
And when that happens, there's an old ladder that has to be sold?
No, that's gone already.
You got rid of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was many months ago.
I'm sorry, yeah.
So
So
We've been
what,
covered by mutual aid up to this point.
That's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's part of, just like the ambulance, it's the same thing. Something breaks down, or it's out of service, or another call, somebody backfills it, another one gets called in. So a lot of times we'll get like Southampton's, we'll get Hatborough's, we'll get Abington, depending on where the call is.
there's another truck on order. Has that come in?
Comes in November.
Is that in process or when will?
They won't start building that to probably late June, early July. So it doesn't take that long.
Wait,
That's a pumper, and that's when we bought together when we.
it's not coming till next November?
November 2025.
That's the schedule that was presented to you in January.
Normally it takes, if you remember, it takes 4+ years from the time you order to the time you get it. We were able to work out an
And this was the
arrangement.
one that, but Glick, the dealer, was already purchasing to bring in and
Right.
sell directly. So we were able to decrease the price of that by committing almost 2 years in advance to that purchase. So that all along, I guess it's known when that goes to be built, that's gonna go to Glick and then ultimately to us.
That was a $1.3 million piece of apparatus that we were able to pick up for, I think, 930,000 by buying the two together.
I remember the numbers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're looking forward to that too. And again, we made the changes that we feel are necessary with meeting with the chiefs from Huntingdon Valley, what they wanted, and we're gonna get a piece of equipment that's gonna serve us well.
Is it swapping will we be selling a truck?
It'll be replacing the
Replacing
current
the
engine they
truck.
have.
You did a resolution that sold both as part of this process. So, and each committed to dates. So I think it's October 31st. The engine at Huntingdon Valley will go out of service, and then this truck will follow in on in November.
So we won't have the gap if we have this.
Unless it
Not
falls
as
apart,
long, but
it's-
there will be.
We're hoping it lasts, the current engine.
Yeah,
It's very old and it's very tired.
but in shared operations, this is an engine that is redundant with what Burnett and Fire Company has. So I think we'll probably.
We're gonna be
a little bit
eliminating
more.
one of those pieces too as part of the deduction. I believe when it's coming.
But in the immediate term, we'll be able to leverage the truck that
Yep.
Burnett has compared to, neither of us had a ladder.
Right.
Right, in spirit of time. And it is very normal to, as the chief was saying, when there's this turnover of new apparatus, that's the mutual aid model, like kind of foresees that it's normal to give a heads up across the mutual aid partners so that you know that you might have some extra ladder obligation as another company while we're building one.
Yeah, everybody's put on notice and they're aware of it. So-
And we have, 2 months of training and outfitting and all that kind of stuff.
The
It
pumper
comes
will be a
with
little bit easier, a little quicker to do. The ladder's more complex, there's a lot more to it, and I mean, Chris and Ted will tell you. And
Yes, yeah, the ladder is definitely more complex. You have ladder operations, ladder setup, plus it has, a pump. So where the pumper will just be the pumper.
Yeah, right.
So we just have training on the pump.
Biggest thing is driving it and getting familiar with it. What we found is everybody seems to really like the fact that it's shorter and it's easier to maneuver and it
Yes.
handles really well.
The bucket does not overhang like the previous ladder that we had, so your swing when your turns is much better.
Cool.
This ladder truck drives much better, much easier to handle and operate also. So thank you very much for what you have done to help us out. I do appreciate that.
Now, I heard
Especially
you,
on the engineering side.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris. I heard you say that we're gonna get rid of that other, so have you completed, you were going to do an evaluation of what you currently have and what.
We've done all that, if you remember, and we put together the plan for how we're gonna reduce the apparatus fleet down as we come together someday. But the two first pieces to go after the ladder is engine 8, which is the one that this new one's gonna replace.
Right.
And then we're gonna reduce down what's called engine 11, or actually now 19.1 up at the other station. They'd sell that now if I would let them. I'm telling them we have to hold on to it to make sure that we have something between the two in case one of them breaks down. The two squads seem to be pretty good, but we need that backup engine. And then we need capacity to carry the hose because we have areas that don't have hydrants. And we have some very long lays to make if we have to.
So I'm gonna ask the question. They're talking about an 80,000 square foot senior facility, putting in another 80,000 square foot senior facility. How do you guys feel about having yet another one of those to manage?
Well, I can tell you, I pray every day that we never have to go through what we had to go through the night before Christmas Eve ever again, or anybody has to do that because it's so hard. Not only on us, but on the people that we're moving. You know, can you imagine being uprooted and relocated and your family's not there, they don't know anything that's going on. And again, it's not just picking them up and putting them in an ambulance and taking them. We have to go through a process where we catalog, process, check in, check out, check in at the new place. All that gets recorded and comes back into this computer program and the reports are put out. Facility does the same thing because they have to track their medications. And it's very complex, but it's just, unfortunately, it's part of doing business. To answer your question though, is it's like anything else. We could be getting an 80,000 square foot warehouse that's got high hazards in it. So we just have to deal with those that come. Now that's what the fire marshal does though. He's one who reviews the plans and says, okay, here's what we need to make our jobs easier. And that's how we work.
Well, hopefully newer buildings will have less building problems.
That's an older building.
Yeah, there's safety features in the newer buildings that are a little bit better, but some of the construction's a little bit different. We have what's called legacy construction and we have modern construction, and they're two different beasts. Legacy construction is, you can't beat it. The new stuff's all lightweight, but it's designed to handle normal conditions. It's when you put a fire to it that makes it very dangerous for us.
And I'm sure you've realized now after this many years, we can't give straight answers to that sort of question.
I know, but I have to answer.
We know that the board is thinking those things, and obviously providing services to the things that are built is the responsibility of staff to help prepare you for. But to Mark's point, things will develop in certain locations and we have to figure out based off of what is being proposed. Do we have our current resources enough or will we need others? And a lot of times while we're looking at data, say on Crescent Fields, as it's partially occupied and just finished its first full year of being open, it takes a long time for these things to really reveal themselves as to what we need to do as a staff to provide those services. So that is a standalone reason. It's obviously part of the consideration, but I would want to just not have any expectation that staff saying do or do not do this project can be one of the considerations for.
I didn't expect that.
Of course.
But I have to put it out there. I mean, to me, it's an extremely important consideration. I have confidence in our police force. We built in that capacity, but it's not the same situation with the fire and the ambulance. I mean, you know, not at all the same.
Calls are very unpredictable how they react. I mean, take a look on TV out west with these wildfires. Thank God we don't have to deal with anything like that. Because I got to tell you, they're so unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. A house fire, we can kind of predict how it's going to go a little bit. You know.
Well, you had a fire in Bernathen on a meadow that could have.
Oh yeah, could have been a lot worse.
Could have, you know, what during.
And this year has been terrible for everybody with that in both Bucks and Montgomery County.
Ruth, addressing your comment though, that's what we're doing right now with our increased staffing on the fire and the EMS side, is preparing for these events and future development if it comes that way. That's why we're adding these additional personnel now, so we are prepared. And if more is needed based on facilities being built and development, we'll need to address that at that time.
Well, I agree with you, Joe. I also know that we are not meeting the benchmarks now.
No, but we've put an instant plan in to do
So
that.
there's not excess capacity, and that's the difference between the police force and the fire. Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it apples and oranges.
Commissioner, if I may,
Go ahead.
If I may say one thing, Ted, Jill and I were up to the matter today to do an inspection. And the director actually said this is kind of a blessing because they have gutted basically 80% of that interior building. And they're actually going to start fresh. And the building, like he said, the building is overdue for a major overhaul. So this was kind of a blessing. Unfortunately, the residents are put out, but they are within probably the next 2 weeks pulling a lot of permits for electrical, plumbing, mechanical. So we'll be up there spending a lot of time the next 2 months at least, just doing building inspections. They're doing the upgrade to that building. So that's kind of a good thing happening.
Right.
So that's one thing that they're making that building a lot safer, because that building definitely needed it.
It was old.
It was,
I
it's an
mean,
old building.
it's a shame that they didn't try to plan to try to make, you know, but.
Like it had been through so many iterations, of owners and managers.
Yeah, and you know, that's one of
Every
the
time I
things
heard-
we learned,
Mm.
and we're gonna talk about when we address this group. You know, everybody has these plans, and I've been doing this a long time, especially emergency management. The plans are shelf documents. They're not operational documents. They're to get you past your state regulations. The other problem is staff continuously changes.
Yeah.
So you go up there, you do your training, and the next week it's a whole new group. It's like, oh, can't win.
Then our
It's
small
hard.
industry is notorious.
But that's a part of their business. That's how it works.
Yeah. We never stop training. We
Yeah.
continue to train and train and train.
It's all you can do.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mark. That takes me to my liaison reports. First up is civil service. I have nothing to report on that one. Next up is my library report. The library is happy to report their busiest year ever. In 2024, they were open 338 days and had 115,218 visitors. 196,356 items were checked out of the libraries. Cardholders saved approximately $1,682,250.26. Library cards are free and can be obtained at the library or from the website, hvlibrary.org. And on Saturday, February 28th at 2 p.m., the library will welcome actor, educator, and historical interpreter, Dr. Daisy Century, as she brings Bessie Coleman to life. Bessie Coleman was the first African-American woman to become a licensed airplane pilot and the first American to hold an international pilot's license. Bessie inspires the audience to identify with a woman who risked everything to make her dream a reality. You can RSVP, and this is for elementary students through adults. All children must be accompanied by an adult. That is all I have. Back to you, President KURITZ.
Thank you, Commissioner Canale, for your agenda. Next chair recognizes Commissioner Housen, Chair of the Property Committee.
Well, I don't have anything on the property committee, but the sanitary sewer, we actually had a Lower Moreland Township Authority meeting last week. And then we also had the sewer planning meeting, which is always fun. I have a good time anyway. And the guy brings donuts.
All of those things are accurate.
They're important. So as far as the pump station replacements go, Longview is pretty much complete. We're just waiting on fencing and some landscaping. Woodland, they're hoping that it'll be complete at the end of January. And Howell should begin after Woodland ends. Forest Hills is also going to be completed this month. That's not a pump station, that's a project where a pipe had risen to the surface. It should not have been used. Also, a 1.2 acre lot has become available close or actually adjacent to the Chapel Hill plant on Wheaton Road. And we're just exploring whether it makes sense for the township authority to buy it. It's very difficult to find space in Lower Moreland to buy, especially adjacent to our plants. And we know in the future, the regulations are only going to increase and additional space may be required if we are to continue to manage our own sewer authority. Does anybody have any questions?
No, thank you for that extensive report, Commissioner Housen.
That completes my, the farm did not meet this month. We are, however, continuing with the plaque project. And that the next meeting for that is the first Monday in February, and I think I'm going to try to do an in-person meeting, weather dependent, at the library. And that completes my agenda items. Thank you, Commissioner KURITZ.
Thank you, Commissioner Housen. That concludes our agenda items for this evening. We'll open this up for any non-agenda items. Would anyone like to address the board regarding any non-agenda items? Anyone in the room? Anyone on Zoom? If not, I will make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second. And everyone votes yes.